Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. That was kind of weird. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode, I believe it is 831 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. And if you will give me a second here, I'm starting off with something in my throat, so just give me a second. There we go. That's a little better. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver Ray, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? I have to say I'm a little depleted today. Yesterday was a rough day. It was a rough day. The morning started out with me finding out, because I think I might have mentioned this, I was having some problems with pigeons at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge. Apparently, they have adopted my balcony as the hottest social club, I guess, in Pigeonland. And therefore, I've been doing everything I can for pest control, and nothing has worked whatsoever. And the condo board wrote to me yesterday and says, we need to do something about this. And it's like, why haven't you written us? And it's like, we've been trying to contact you. And it's like, I have received no communications at all. Do you have my actual email address? Turns out they did not have my correct email address. And the condo board apparently took it upon itself, or the condo management group apparently took it upon itself to hire people to decontaminate and all that kind of stuff, which is something I could have done myself because it's just basically PPE and, a 1 to 10 bleach solution. And you spray it and let it sit for 5 minutes, then scrape and then clean some more. And hopefully we would be able to allow ourselves to install some netting, which I assume that the condo board would be against, because you can't do anything once you get a condo. But apparently that was an issue that they could do. So apparently it has taken it upon itself to hire a decontamination company and a company to install net. And apparently the bill for that is going to be about $2,000. So yeah, that happened yesterday. And then I made the mistake of going to my curling match and not bringing my glasses. So for the second time this year at two-person stick curling, as I was throwing, the other team scored a perfect 6 against us. And of course, when a team scores a perfect 6, there's a bell that's rung, and people come and they grab a camera and they take pictures of what it looks like, and it gets published. So yes, for the second time this year, This has never happened in my entire life. And for the second time this year, 6 scored against us when I'm throwing. So that was not good for the ego. And then while I was at curling, I got a message from my Beaver sweetie asking me to come home as soon as possible, which of course I missed when it came in. And so on the way home, I had, we had a post match drink. And then on the way home, I stopped in at the grocery store to pick up a couple of things I was going to need to make dinner that night. And as I got out of the grocery store and was waiting for the bus to come back home, that's when my Beaver sweetie called me and said, "Did you not get my message?" Well, turns out he was feeling very, very poorly. He was running a fever and lots of um, stuff. Not. I'm. It's early in the morning, so I'm trying to use wording that is um, breakfast appropriate. But let's just say that things were not pretty from both ends, and we'll leave it there at that. And yeah. So yeah, yesterday, um, we got back home and my Beaver sweetie was shivering and very much in pain, uncomfortable. So we made sure that we got him to the urgent care clinic after doing significant, not a significant, but an important amount of cleanup. Where because there was a mess, and we got there, and the way he was in pain, I was thinking it might have been his appendix because when I was in my 20s, very similar. I started the day feeling great, and then just snap of the fingers, and I was on the ground and uh, writhing, and very much in pain, and all that other stuff was happening. Um, but it seems that it might have been just likewise was the case for me in November, garden variety food poisoning. And but yeah, it was very painful, and he was burning up very much. So even last night after we were discharged and whatnot, I just put my hands on his legs, and they were really really warm. So, but yeah, we went through all of that. We spent the evening at the hospital and got discharged a little before 9 o'clock, I believe. Went to the pharmacy, and of course, the medication he had been prescribed. Um, I was claiming it for him, and of course, stuff with insurance did not work. So another $177. Yesterday was a very, very, very expensive day for yours truly, and yeah, got to bed a little later than I had originally planned. Was planning to head off to the Ottawa Beaver Lodge this morning to do a couple of things down there. That's probably not going to happen in case he still needs me today. So, yeah, schedules being thrown off and big expenses and just with all of that going on, not being attentive and forgetting my glasses at home and having one of the most embarrassing things that can possibly happen to you at curling happen. So, yeah, I guess considering all of that, my mental health is good because I'm not screaming, yelling, or throwing things, and I'm here. But yeah, yesterday was a difficult day. I will say. But uh, because the damn fam is the damn fam, when I did post that my Beaver sweetie was not doing well and asked for a little love and some healing vibes, we got plenty of it. He did see it come in. He was very, very deeply touched, and he sends his love and his thanks, and as do I. Um, so yeah, just a little bit of an adventure yesterday. And how was your evening? Oh man. All right. Let's take a little look, because I think we have some newer names here, or at least with the YouTube changing the names thing, maybe just newer handles that I'm not familiar with at the moment. But hello to Kit Elaine, to Kit Linda here in the chat. We have Kit Uncover with us as well. We have Kit Nona Carole with us. We have Kit Playing with 3D as well. Thank you for your wishes. My Beaver sweetie d- did get to rest peacefully, although he did wake up several times during the night. Of course, when you've spent a lot of the day in bed and sort of dipping in and out of sleep, it's kind of hard to sleep a full 8 hours at night. But he's resting and recovering. I slept fairly well when my head finally hit the pillow, because with all of that happening during the day, I still had a show to prepare, so I was up a little later. But when my head hit the pillow, it hit solid, and I did not wake up all night, or I might have woken up once very briefly, but slept all the way through. But I am. I will admit I am tired, but yes, we did manage to get some sleep, and said hopefully, my Beaver sweetie, that will be very restorative for him and help him get back on his feet sooner rather than later. Okay, who else do we have here? We have Kit Hyper T. We have Kit Lori with us. Kit Mohan also with us. Good morning to all of you. We have Kit Jillian with us. Kit Jillian, I don't know if you heard it yesterday, but I know that I think about a week ago you asked if I could give a shout out on air to a veteran who was celebrating their 100th birthday, and I didn't see it before the show ended. So if you have the name that I could use to give the shout out, I would be happy to do it, and hopefully I will see it during this show as it goes by. We also have with us Miss. Hello, how are you, Kit Miss? Hope everything's going well. Hope everything is well with Jazz, Rain, and our dear Mateo, and the kitties as well. We have Kit Argosi Acres with us. We have Kit the Reference Frame, which is a relatively new name for me. So if you are not someone that has been here for a while who had to change the handle due to the YouTube thing, welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Pull up a log, stick around. Hope you have some fun. And damn fam, be nice. I don't have to say that, though. The damn fam's always nice. Who else do we have with us here this morning? Kid Bucky is with us. Hey, hello. Good day to you, sir. Hope everything is going well with you. And still going through the chat, looking through my magic monitor. Kit Mayhem is here. Hello. Nice to see you. Haven't seen your name for a while. It's nice that you're here. Who else do we have? Yes, the the pigeons. I blame Poliev. I think his team watches the show, and I believe they're the ones who sent them. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. Kit Saucy is with us as well this morning. And then Kit Galactic Streamlord. That's another new name for me. So welcome to the Beaver Lodge, you as well. We might be running out of trees with all the logs that I'm asking people to pull up. Hope that you find something that resonates with you during our show. Recommended the stream by one of our Alaskan viewers. Well, hey, hello. Hi, Alaska. So glad that you could join us. If you do want to join us too, I mean, we're okay with an 11th province. Just saying. But don't worry, it's not an annexation thing. It's just our arms are open, and if you want to jump the fence, we will certainly welcome you. I mean, Trump said he didn't want to be neighbors with Russia anyway. We're a helpful nation, so I'm just pulling your legs. I'm pulling your legs. We have here Kit Sammy with the Sami Yassin, another new name for us here. Hello and welcome to you too. Wow, lots of new people. The Breens are here with us. Good morning to you both. Hope everything is well with you. And let's see. Okay. Oh, Then I have Morden Morden Inky Cap. That is another new name for me here. Wow, Jenny Snyder. I think that might be somebody who's back. I think that's a name I might have seen before. Good morning to you. Kit Kat is with us as well. Oh my God, the whole gang is here. Dexter Morgan Blood Spatters 6382. Wow, that is that is quite a handle. That is also a new name for us. Good morning to you. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Wow, all these new names all of a sudden. Kit PNC Bio is with us. Um, and then, Jillian, thank you. The veteran for whom she had asked for a shout out is Mr. Frank Phillips, who celebrated his 100th on January 7th. Happy belated birthday wishes to you, sir. Thank you for your service to the country, of course. And I hope that your birthday was filled with love and laughter and lots of good friendships, good food, and that you ate all the cake because let's face it, when you're over 100, cake is totally calorie free, especially birthday cake, calorie and guilt free. That's just the law here at the Beaver Lodge. It just is. Kit Bomb is with us. Bon matin, mon ami. Bon matin, mon ami. À vous aussi. Je suis très content que vous êtes ici. We have Kit Blue 2 Mato 312. Wow. Good afternoon from Norway. Well, hello. Wow. Hi, Norway. How are you? Wow, this is a beautiful surprise. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoy the interaction with the Dam Fam. I hope that you make it a regular visit. It's so nice to have people from Norway. Wow, that is so cool. Uh, Okay, Uncover. Oh, we have some internet news here. Uncover says that our Instagram, recently established, has now hit 100 followers. Woohoo! Milestone achieved. And let's see, who else do we have here? My God, you are talking. Kit Ill today is with us. We have Kit MX Glitchmaster. That's also a new name for us. Popping in to say hello. Good morning to you as well. Wow. Um, I don't know how all these new names suddenly found us, except for the person who said that a friend from Alaska recommended. But thank you all for stopping in at the Beaver Lodge, and let's share a little information, a little media and political literacy, and all that kind of stuff, and have some fun. The conversation in the chat, by the way, sometimes doesn't always reflect what's going on the show. Just roll with it. The Damn Fam likes to talk about a whole bunch of a lot of things, but it's a very, very, very supportive group. Just some basic rules: we don't first assume the worst of each other, and we're all in here together to build a little bit of community and some support. So, well, we always say, be kind to and gentle with yourself, and often that makes it such that you're kind to and gentle with others as well. All right. So that's just the basic house rule. Don't first assume the worst and be kind and gentle. And, you know, everything should be fine. This is a lovely, supportive group that has a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. I learn a lot from them, just as much as I assume they learn from me. So, probably even more, to be totally honest, because there's more of you than there is of me. So I've got a lot more to learn. But it's a wonderful, beautiful environment, and I hope that you love it here. Kit Blue Mato says, thank you, True North Eager Beaver. I'm here from GNN. Is that GNN? I'm not sure what GNN is. You might have to explain that to me. All right. But yes. Oh, by the way, Kid Dexter, our host is not Indigenous. I just wanted to clear that up. I am. There is Indigenous blood in my background generations ago, but I was not raised in the culture at all. I have no status. I make no claims. All I know is that there is, according to my mom and my dad, based on what they told me, that there might be some, in our lineage, but that's about where it ends. So yeah, I'm very supportive, of course, of the community, but I lay no claims personally. So I just wanted to do that. Just wanted to make that clear because I get asked that often, and I am not. Uh, n- Not that I'd have a problem with being if I was, but I'm not. All right. Let's see. Let's get into it. Okay. Um, let's start with some little stuff. Since we talked about Indigenous stuff, one of the things I wanted to mention, it's a little bit of an update on a story that we brought to you because, as you know, we had some cold weather recently, and the Pimachikamak Cree Nation, I believe that's in Manitoba, had some big trouble because the power went out there, and they were without power for 4 days, and the water treatment plant there was experiencing some issues. And well, help was needed. Of course, it's a more remote First Nation, but according to Brittany Hobson of the Canadian Press, uh, members of the Canadian Armed Forces are on the ground. This is as of 3 days ago to help a First Nation in northern Manitoba that's in the throes of severe water issues, while some displaced residents may be forced to relocate once again. Pimachikamak Cree Nation Chief David Manias said 7 military members arrived in his community Monday morning after he pushed the federal government to send reinforcements. Manias said the crew will first be tasked with assessing one of the community's water treatment plants, which has been out of commission for 2 weeks. Quote, they're doing a site tour of the water plant right now, takes notes, identify what needs to be fixed, and assesses how it needs to be fixed and what resources are required to fix it, he told reporters in Winnipeg before he was supposed to return to Pimachikamak. Military members are also to provide technical assistance and support related to critical infrastructure and recovery options. The armed forces confirmed that members of the Joint Operational Support Group based in Kingston, Ontario, are planning to be in the First Nation for 2 weeks. Mania said he expects another crew to arrive in the community on Wednesday, so that would have been yesterday. The First Nation, 530 kilometers north of Winnipeg, suffered a days-long power outage that led to frozen water systems, sewer backups, electrical issues, and burst pipes. On December 28th, a 300-meter-long power line running between two islands in the Nelson River broke. Manitoba Hydro fully restored power to the community days later, but the power went out during a bitterly cold run of weather, resulting in ruptured pipes. About 4,400 residents have been displaced to other communities and have been unable to return. Another 2,000 stayed behind and have managed to salvage some of their property by using generators, said Manias. But as days go on and officials get a grasp on the reality of the damage, Manias said it is becoming clear that every one of the more than 1,300 homes in the community will require some sort of repair. Yikes. Quote, they may be from minor repairs to major repairs. We have some houses that have damaged floors. We have a house that's cracked right down the middle. Yikes. It's like there was an earthquake, he said. Houses with minor leaks and cracks can get fixed within a matter of days, while others that sustained more damage may take weeks or months. Plumbers and other workers from out of province are also on their way to the First Station to help with the water and electrical issues. A 100-person camp has been established in the community, and there are talks to set up another 30-person camp as crews arrive. Manias said a company from the United States reached out as well about sending a portable water plant. Thank you so much, friends. Premier Wab Kinew, who supported the community's call to send in the military, welcomed Monday's news. The province has faced criticism from Pimachikamak about Crown-owned Manitoba Hydro's failure to move the power line after repeated requests from the First Nation. Quote, there's going to be that conversation about bigger picture, longer term fixes. But for right now, when you're in immediate recovery stage, it's important that we all work together, he told reporters at an unrelated event. Kinew previously committed to asking Hydro to review its response to the power outage and to consider moving the community's power line. Community officials are working to get learning materials to displaced residents and those still in the community as the outage has kept kids out of school, while others in Manitoba returned last week after the holiday season. This isn't the first time the community has been evacuated. Members went south twice last year due to wildfires. The string of displacements has taken a toll on residents. They're experiencing emotional and mental distress because it's not healthy to be secluded in four walls in a hotel room, said Pimachikamak councillor Shirley Robinson. Leadership is facing another hurdle as the roughly 1,200 staying in Thompson are expected to be out of accommodations later this week because local hotel rooms are being used for a hockey tournament, said Manias. So that is the first bit of news, and that was from about a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. 2 days ago, the military members were arriving and then starting to provide help. So I'm just taking a look here on this article. Is it also by Brittany Hobson? Yes, of the Canadian Press. So it says Pimicikamak Cree Nation Chief David Manias said that 7 military members arrived in his community on Monday morning after he pushed the federal government to send in reinforcements. Said the crew will first be tasked with assessing one of the community's water treatment plants, which has been out of commission for 2 weeks. Military members are also to provide technical assistance and support related to critical infrastructure and recovery options. Um, let's see what else there is here. Uh, I think everything else is pretty much the same as the previous article here because that was just an update to state that they were arriving. And then, as of 15 hours ago, the second wave of military staff has arrived, also according to the Canadian Press. It says here, more members of the Canadian Armed Forces have landed in a First Nation in Manitoba that is in the throes of severe water issues, including frozen pipes, flooding, and a backed-up sewage. The military says 3 members arrived in Pimicikamak Cree Nation on Wednesday, joining the 7 who are already in the northern Manitoba community. The Armed Forces has been helping to assess issues with the community's water and sewage treatment plants and power concerns. The initial Group 7 military members first arrived in the community on Monday after leadership pushed the federal government for logistical and technical support. And that's just basically it. So it's just the update that 3 more have arrived. So they have 10 in all. Hopefully, that's all that will be needed. But it seems there with 1,300 homes damaged. Yes, some of them minor, but some of them needed some major work. That might require more than 10 people, unless these 10 people are very, very specialized in doing very specific things, and that there's just help from the broader communities that will come for the rest of the stuff. So that wasn't necessarily highlighted in the articles, but at least help has arrived. And when you have help arriving, then you start having a plan. And when you start having a plan, well, you can start seeing some of the light at the end of the tunnel. So at least that has been taken care of. Other small bits of news we have, small bits of news. We have some comings and goings. One is a bit smaller news. The other one is bigger. So we'll start with the smaller one. Bonnie Crombie, who was or known as the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, but who had announced that she would step down following the fact that she had lost the provincial election, but also failed to win her own seat in that election. She vowed that at first that she was going to stay on. There was a leadership vote organized. The New Leaf Liberals played a big role in that. We had Nathaniel Arfin as a guest on our show to talk about that, if you remember correctly. And she did win the leadership vote by a small margin, did indicate that she was going to stay, but a couple of days later announced that she would be stepping aside once the party has picked a new leader. Well, it seems that Bonnie Crombie has decided to step aside before the party has picked a new leader. Yeah. Not sure how well that's going down with the party, because that would be yet another thing that she promised that she didn't necessarily follow through on with to her leadership. But according to Stone, Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie has resigned just months after she said she intended to stay on until a new leader of the provincial party was chosen. Ms. Crombie said in a statement on Wednesday that after, quote, careful reflection, she has decided to step aside as leader, effective immediately. Quote, as we begin a new year, I believe this is the right moment for me and my party to move forward. I am incredibly proud of the work we have done together to rebuild and renew our party. I am thankful to our members, volunteers, caucus, and supporters across Ontario, Ms. Crombie said. I am looking forward to spending more time with my family, including welcoming my first grandchild, while giving the party the space it needs to move forward with new leadership. Okay. She came in promising that she could win the election, obviously could win her seat, promising a whole bunch of type of renewal, and it didn't really happen. And then she's told to go, says that she is going to stay. They have the vote. It is enough. Technically, it's over 50%, but usually in Canada, if you're having a leadership vote, you want something in the very high 70s, even possibly the 80s, in order to be able to stay. She didn't get anywhere near that. Vowed that she was absolutely staying. So she wanted the job then, and now she's going early, kind of leaving the party in a little bit of a lurch. I'm not sure how all of this inconsistency and not following up on a word is going to um, help future prospects. Let's put it that way. The party will now appoint an interim leader until a successor is chosen. Liberal MPP John Fraser, the party's parliamentary leader in the legislature, previously served as interim leader twice when former leaders Kathleen Wynne and Stephen Del Duca resigned. Ms. Crombie, the former three-term mayor of Mississauga, announced in September she would be stepping down from her post after a disappointing review by party members of her time at the helm. Only 57% of Liberal delegates voted against holding a leadership contest, which was seen as untenable for Ms. Crombie's leadership. However, she voted at the time to stay on until her successor was chosen. Since then, Ms. Crombie has not been seen at the Ontario legislature. Under Ms. Crombie's leadership, the Ontario Liberal Party regained party status, winning 14 seats in the 2025 provincial election, but Ms. Crombie herself failed to win a seat in Mississauga, and the party remained in third place in the legislature. Catherine McGarry, president of the Ontario Liberal Party, thanked Ms. Crombie for her leadership and service. Quote, Bonnie stepped forward at a critical moment and played an important role in rebuilding our party, growing our movement, and positioning us for the future, Ms. McGarry said in a statement. She added that the party's executive council has been working on the details of an upcoming leadership election and will be announcing the date soon. On that front, and Daniel Arfin back on the show again. But yes, with that, I saw a news article earlier today about the liberal leadership race, saying that there were some candidates that were starting to emerge. And I'm just going to take a look to see if I can draw that up, because I thought I had set aside the article, but I have not. Apparently, I miscopied the link. So this is not exactly the one I saw, but it could be. It has perhaps it'll have some relevant information here that will be very useful if I can get it to work for me. It's being a little capricious at the moment, but I think that I have been able to solve the issue. There it is. According to Bob Ferguson, the Queen's Park Bureau, of the Queen's Park Bureau, and Rob Benzie, the Queen's Park Bureau chief for the Toronto Star, call it the limbo dance. 4 months after Bonnie Crombie reluctantly signaled her intention to quit following a lukewarm performance review, the Ontario Liberal Party is yet to schedule a leadership race amid internal squabbles. Party President Catherine McGarry, a former MPP, says details are coming, quote, in the next few weeks, following an extensive consultation process that revealed an appetite for an online voting option. There are high hopes in Liberal circles that they could finally rebound in the next election, expected in 2029 or 2030. We know that the Ford government is likely going to be at the end of its course, so we fully believe that the leader we elect this time is likely going to be the premier of the province, said McGarry, arguing the party has ample time to hold a leadership contest. We would like it to conclude as quickly as possible, but there is no rush in the circumstances, she said, acknowledging there have been some questions about the delay. In 2012, when Dalton McGuinty stepped down, we ran a very quick campaign because we needed to replace a premier. We're not under that same gun now. Indeed, in March 2020, the Liberals waited almost 2 years after their June 2018 electoral drubbing to choose a permanent successor to former Premier Kathleen Wynne. At the time, they elected Stephen Del Duca, who led them into the 2022 vote and is now mayor of Vaughan. That, in other words, he didn't win. He did terribly, actually. Similarly, the party did not crown Crombie until 18 months after the 2022 election. The Liberals remain the third party in the legislature, which doesn't include Crombie, who failed to win a seat, fueling her demise. Despite being mayor of Mississauga for a decade before moving to provincial politics, she lost to rookie progressive conservative candidate Sylvia Gualtieri, mother-in-law of Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown. Crombie has been keeping a low profile since securing the tepid 57% support in the September 14th leadership review vote, not holding press conferences or appearing in scrums with reporters at Queen's Park. Impatience for a new leader is growing, said a senior Liberal source who fears dithering by disparate members on the party's electorate elected executive means the prospects of a leadership convention this spring is increasingly iffy because of the dwindling time window for a campaign. Quote, the Ford government has no opposition now. There's a tremendous lost opportunity, said the source, who spoke privately to discuss internal party members and noted that there had been expectations of details on a leadership race before Christmas. I'm sure Merritt Stiles, the leader of the NDP, the actual official opposition in Ontario, would object to the statement that the Ford government has no opposition now. There are concerns about the prospect of a fall vote because it would overlap with municipal election campaigns across the province and get more difficult to attract volunteers and donors. That could be no leadership convention until 2027, which allows more time for candidates to tour the province and line up new members once a race is officially declared, allowing hopefuls to begin raising money. As it is shaping up now, the field is a mix of old and new faces. The presumptive frontrunner in the undeclared race is Beach's East York MP, Nate Erskine-Smith, who finished second to Crombie in the 2023 leadership contest and spent much of last year organizing against her. Writing on his Substack blog last week, Erskine-Smith sounded bullish. Quote, the biggest question mark for 2026 is the Ontario Liberal leadership race. It's still a huge opportunity to make a difference, which is why I ran the last time, the federal backbencher wrote. It is past time for change. We shouldn't accept the Ford government's obvious mediocrity, incompetence, and corruption, even if it's folksy, he added. We don't know the timeline of the race yet, but we're now building a team, one that is ready to run, win, and govern together. Everything depends on the strength of that team, including the decision to join the race when it's officially called. But Erskine-Smith, a self-styled maverick, has rankled some grits both with his undermining of Crombie and when he complained of feeling, quote, disrespected when Prime Minister Mark Carney dumped him from cabinet last year. The last place candidate from the 2023 leadership, Kingston and the Islands MPP Ted Hsu, said he won't run again. That's a shame because he's a really, really good man. While Adil Shamji, MPP for Don Valley East, told the Star he has, quote, not decided yet after dropping out early last time to back Crombie. Expressions of interest have come from MPPs Lee Fairclough, Etobicoke Lakeshore, and Rob Seryanak of Ajax, both of whom wrested their ridings from the Tories last February's election that returned Premier Doug Ford to power with a rare third consecutive majority. Quote, one of the reasons people have been reaching out to me is because it's been 8 years since we had an Ontario Liberal leader with a seat in the legislature, said Fairclough, the former hospital president. There's a lot of Liberals that would like to see that. Seryanik, a former business consultant and municipal political aide, said he has given serious consideration to a bid. Quote, from conversations with members across the province, it's clear there's a strong appetite to choose a leader this year and to get to work rebuilding and mobilizing the grassroots of the party ahead of the next provincial election. Mike Crawley, a former banker and energy executive who was a political staffer at Queen's Park in the 1990s and later federal Liberal Party president, is also contemplating a run, having launched an exploratory website. Dr. Andrew Boozery, founding executive director of the Gattuso Center for Social Medicine and a former political advisor to Wynn's Liberals between 2014 and 2016, has also been mentioned as a possible candidate. Liberal MP Karina Gould from Burlington, who had been pondering a jump to provincial politics, and she had also run for the leadership of the federal Liberals in the last iteration of the race, told her constituents last month that she would remain on the federal scene. Watching from across the aisle in the legislature, Ford's governing Tories are enjoying the Liberals' internecine problems. One cabinet minister speaking confidentially in order to discuss internal deliberations expressed astonishment at the Grits' de facto dumping of Crombie. Quote, it's good for us because they have to start from square one again, but I don't get it because it's not like they have anyone better than Bonnie waiting in the wings, said the minister. Oh, you do not know that for a fact, sir. Well, sir or ma'am. The gender has not been indicated here. The cabinet minister noted the Tories outflanked the Liberals by calling a snap election last winter, making it harder for Crombie to break through with voters. So actually, that was the article I was looking for. It was just the title of it that has been changed since I had last seen it. So that gives you an overview of who might be some of the candidates in the Liberal leadership race. And yes, it is true that there is a decent possibility that when come the next election, Ontarians may finally be tired of Doug Ford and would be wanting something else. And I mean, because Doug Ford's personal popularity numbers are not great. It's just that the other parties have not been able to table a minimally attractive option. So maybe this time it could change. When governments have had 2 or 3 terms, they start to get a little long on the tooth. And sometimes if the main opposing party has a leadership race, somebody has the feeling that, hey, next time it really could be us because Ontarians might be in a time for a change mood, and therefore it might be a good time to step up. So sometimes you might attract higher quality candidates just by virtue of the fact that it just seems that the next one, it's just time for there to be a change. That's what Pierre Poilievre was thinking federally when he became leader of the Conservatives after Justin Trudeau had 3 terms, and thought, well, it has to be me. Whoever wins the leadership of the Conservative Party it will be the next prime minister. And well, that didn't really work out for him. So, but that usually is a rule in the Canadian politics when you get a government that's a little long in the tooth and there's a leadership race for the main opposition party. The person who wins it generally becomes the next leader. Not always, but generally. So that alone may be a draw in order to get better quality candidates because what we've had the last 2 go-rounds, um, uh, not impressive. Not impressive at all. So we deserve better, and hopefully we will be able to do better. All right. Let's see what else we have for you today, kids and cubs here. Let's see. Kit Linda M here in the chat. Ford, we had to get so full of himself he feels ready to challenge federally, although that would be a mistake. Yeah, I think it would be. Ford is surprisingly popular in Quebec. They really liked the whole Captain Canada standing up to Trump thing over there. So even though he can't speak French, he is surprisingly popular in Quebec. But that said, you would have the entire conservative machine because, there's sort of like this conservative civil war going on. The latest example of that is, I think, Corey Tenike, who is the big political operative behind Doug Ford that got him his majorities. And as you know, there's a leadership race in British Columbia for the leadership of the BC Conservatives. And there's a lady named Caroline Elliott who has decided that she is going to run for the BC Conservatives. And she has hired Corey Tenike as her campaign manager. According to the Canadian press, political commentator Caroline Elliott has confirmed she will be joining the race for leader of the British Columbia Conservative Party. Elliott, who was involved with the former BC Liberal Party, Successor BC United, for about 2 decades, says she will represent, quote, the change this party and province needs, and adds that she has, quote, the support of an excellent team with a winning campaign manager. The confirmation of her candidacy comes after Corey Tenike told the Curse of Politics podcast that he would be moving to Vancouver to help manage Elliott's leadership campaign. Oh, poor Yuri Fulmer. I think that last video we saw of Yuri walking through the streets of wherever in BC, filming people in their most tragic and miserable moments, using their likeness to present a mini Pierre version of Everything is Broken in BC, and but with a calmer voice and less finger wagging, less flapping of the wings, and of course a charming accent. But uh, if Miss Elliott has gotten herself Corey Tenike, unless she personally is a disaster, that might be the end of Mr. Fulmer as a viable candidate. He had his 2 weeks. It's been nice getting to know you, but you may now exit stage right. Yee. Tenike, who served as a director of communications to former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, has also worked as Ontario Premier Doug Ford's campaign manager and helped that province's progressive Conservatives secure 3 successive majority governments. Elliott joins BC Conservative MLA Sheldon Clare, entrepreneur Yuri Fulmer, and Rossland contractor Warren Ham as declared candidates. Former grocery executive Daryl Jones and MLAs Harman Bangu and Peter Milobar have also indicated they are seriously considering running to replace John Rustad, who resigned last month, really pushed out. Quote, I'm in, Elliott said in a brief statement on Tuesday. It's time to defeat the NDP and bring renewed hope and confidence to BC. I look forward to announcing my vision very soon. Stay tuned. So, as I was mentioning, if Doug Ford did try to make a run, the actual well, not actual, I should say, the people who brand themselves as real conservatives, who are nothing like actual conservatives. Um, there's a little bit of civil war within the conservative movement between these two factions, and you have people all over the internets calling to saying that Corey Tonight wants liberals from coast to coast to coast to win, and is now a liberal shill and is helping the liberals because he's not pure enough as a conservative. The CPC should really change its party name to the CPPC. The Conservative Purity Party of Canada, because they have been throwing a lot of their fellow mates under the bus. Not that we, on the more centrist or progressive side, or even on the center right side, mind. Fight, 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 fight. Because as we keep on saying on the show, the only people conservatives hate more than actual progressives or liberals are each other. So, yeah, if we can keep on pointing out how it is that, hey, this guy here says he's a conservative, but he can't be a real conservative like you now, could he? Stir the pot. Just stir the pot. And then watch them go at it. So yeah, that would be the downside for Ford, is that they would have the whole Polyev machine running against it, declaring that they're not real, they're not true conservatives, and then just you just sit back and make some popcorn, extra butter, because it's gonna be so good. Okay. Also talking about comings and goings, kits and cubs. I know, I just can't help it. I'm petty. Talking about comings and goings. A big one that we were kind of wondering when it was going to happen, because the writing has been on the wall for quite some time. But it seems that Quebec Premier Franky Legs, as we like to call him, but François Legault of his actual name, has finally seen the writing on the wall and has announced fairly close to the upcoming provincial election in August that he will be stepping down as leader of the CAQ, La Coalition Avenir Québec, the name of his political party. This is according to Franca J. Mignacca and Benjamin Singler of CBC News. Quebec Premier François Legault has announced he is stepping down, putting an end to a dominant run in provincial politics that saw him lead the party he founded to 2 majority governments. Legault said he will remain in place until his party elects a new leader. He made the announcement at a news conference Wednesday morning. Quote, I can see that right now a lot of Quebecers want change first and foremost, and among other things, a change in premier, said Legault, flanked by his wife and top aide. The resignation comes after months of turbulence, falling poll result. Let's try that sentence again. The resignation comes after months of turbulence, falling poll results, and ministers leaving the party. Quote, of course, there were a few failures. We have talked about them a lot, but there was a lot of success above all, he said. The Coalition Avenir Québec, or CAQ, will have just months to choose a new leader ahead of the vote scheduled for October 5th, 2026. That's the provincial election vote. Legault has been Quebec's premier since 2018 and the leader of the CAQ since 2011. Before the legislative session broke for the holidays in December, the premier had vowed again to stay on as the party's leader, a promise he had made several times over the last year despite friction within the party and speculation that some MNAs wanted him to step down. Over the course of the fall, the premier lost both Lionel Carman as social service minister and Christian Dubé as health minister over disagreements with the way the government had handled changes in the remuneration of specialists and family doctors. We talked about this on the show. He actually lost Lionel Carman when he introduced the bill, and then lost Christian Dubé when the bill was not well received at all by the doctors. And then François Legault came in and basically supplanted his health minister, making a new agreement with the doctors that didn't really change all that much from the previous deal and basically undercut his health minister. So the health minister left. So on the same bill, coming and going, he lost a minister. Both of them are sitting out of independence, I believe. That's not a great track record. Several MNAs also left or were kicked out of the CAQ in recent months, some for reportedly looking to transition to other parties. The latest Palace data poll, which surveyed more than 1,100 Quebecois between January 9th and 10th, placed the Premier and his party at just 10% in voter intentions. More than 50% of respondents chose, quote, very unfavorable when asked for their opinion of Legault. The Parti Québécois, which has promised to hold a referendum if they win, has been leading in the polls for months, with the party snatching 3 seats away from the CAQ in 3 successive by-elections since 2023. The Quebec Liberal Party is also searching for a leader after Pablo Rodriguez stepped down last month. Politicians of all levels of government took to social media to react to the Premier's announcement Wednesday, with some highlighting his contributions to the province during the pandemic. In a post on X, Prime Minister Mark Carney highlighted Legault's public service and business contributions and wished him continued success. Quote, from startups in business and politics, François Legault has demonstrated the value of thinking big, taking risks, and working hard, wrote Carney. And I think it was Dimitri Soudas, former operative for Stephen Harper, who made the point that François Legault was both, in his time in office, the most popular premier in Quebec history and the most unpopular during COVID. I think he had reached an approval rating of something like 76% for the way he was managing things. And the guy could practically walk on water at that point. That's how Uncle Franky, he's very avuncular, as the word goes here. And people were calling him Mon oncle François, Uncle François, or Uncle Franky at that time, because he just seemed like, just this, this earnest and caring uncle that was taking care of everybody, and was very popular at that point. But then a series of very bad decisions, and some desperate decisions in the end, like, for example, claiming that he wanted to start a Quebec constitution, but having done no consultations with anyone. That didn't go over well. The whole thing with the remuneration of doctors, that didn't go over well. The Northvolt, I believe, a EV battery plant that he had put a lot of money into, that deal fell apart. And he was the guy from business and politics who promised that there would be a lot of change that way. That didn't come. There was the whole thing about the third link from Quebec City, the third bridge from to one of the shores, I think it is the South Shore, to Quebec City. And he said that he was in and then not in. And the fact that his word appeared to have less and less value also kind of affected him on the way down. Parti Québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon says the Premier should be recognized for having served the public for more than 25 years. Quote, despite our profound disagreements on the reasons behind our current collective difficulties and of the future of Quebec, François Legault has always been sincere in his desire to improve the fate of the Quebec nation, Saint-Pierre Plamondon wrote. Oh, so he passed on an opportunity to be a dick. Okay. That's one difference between him and Pierre Poilievre. Interim leader Marc Tanguay said it's not the time to criticize the Premier. Quote, regardless of our differences in opinion, politics comes with its share of sacrifices, especially for the family, he wrote. I wish him all the best. The Premier's departure came as a blow to some of his cabinet ministers. Quote, he succeeded at what many considered to be impossible, to break the alternation of the two old parties that for too long kept Quebec immobile, wrote Government House Leader and Quebec Justice Minister Simon Jolin Barrette. And that is true. The CAQ became the first political party other than the Parti Québécois or the Quebec Liberals to form government in the province. So he did break that. That is definitely a historical moment. Something that will go down as a historical Quebec politics historical trivia note there. But yes, he is the only one that had been able to break that duopoly, for lack of a better word. But the province's unions, which were often at opposing ends of public conflicts with the Premier, had a different opinion of Legault's legacy. In a statement, Quebec's largest nurse union, the FIQ, this is not going to be pretty, said the Premier left the public health system in a critical situation. Quote, overcrowded emergency rooms, exhausted staff, and dilapidated infrastructure were not accidents, but the result of reactive management and an absence of consistent planning, the union's president Julie Bouchard said in a statement. Some Indigenous leaders were relieved to see the Premier go after years of his government refusing to recognize the existence of systemic racism in Quebec. Yeah, that was another problem. Quote, this is really good news, especially for relations between the governments and First Nations, Manawan Chief C.P. Flamand told Radio-Canada. It was necessary that he make a decision worthy of this office, especially since the CAQ government never recognized the existence of systemic racism, and not only did not recognize the existence of systemic racism, but frequently uh, engaged in it, actually established some of it, if one could say, or at least say systemic discrimination with some of its bills, like the bill that does not allow people who wear, according to the Quebec government, ostentatious religious symbols to serve in any job, um, public sector job that in which one might be have a position of authority. So judges, police officers, that type of stuff, and he was expanding that to things like teachers and other things like that. So basically, creating a situation that if you happened to be a devout Muslim or a devout Sikh who had a kippah, or a devout Hindu who was wearing a turban, um, or a devout Jewish man who was wearing a yarmulke, um, you couldn't work in any positions of authority. So you had the privilege of living in Quebec and paying the same taxes as everyone else for the benefit of having less access to public jobs. And he thought that that was okay. Prior to entering politics, he was the co-founder of the Canadian airline Air Transat. He was MNA from 1998 to 2009, serving in the governments of former premiers Lucien Bouchard and Bernard Landry with the PQ before ultimately starting his own party. His right-of-centre Nationalist Party transformed Quebec politics, offering an alternative to the debate over Quebec's independence. The CAQ was the first party since 1970 to win an election other than the Liberals or PQ. And what was important about this is that it was very much, I guess you could say, an autonomous party rather than a separatist party. But it was a party that was saying, we will do the Quebec first thing the same way that the Quebec separatists were doing, but we're tired of referendums. We're just not going to put these things on the agenda. There's no separation referendums. We don't want to do this. We will speak for Quebec. We will stand for Quebec. A little bit Bloc Québécois model, but without pushing for referendums. Now, the Bloc Québécois, I'm sure, if there was a referendum, they would be out there supporting it. So in that way, unlike Bloc Québécois, but like the Bloc Québécois in the sense that, it's, if it's good for Quebec, we'll support it. And if it's not good for Quebec, we won't, regardless of everything else in Canada, and taking that attitude. Legault said he is most proud of where he left Quebec's economy, accelerating ahead of Ontario when it comes to economic growth by encouraging companies to expand in the province and transforming the province's energy sector. Pardon me. But his legacy in the energy sector was not without controversy. In 2023, the government touted the construction of a Northvolt battery plant as, quote, historic moment in the province's transition to greener energy, saying it would create thousands of jobs. The province later lost hundreds of millions of dollars it had invested in the project when Northvolt's Swedish parent company declared bankruptcy last year. For years, identity politics were at the center of Legault's government decisions. It made a push for secularism by banning the wearing of religious symbols for some public employees, including teachers. The government is still in the process of expanding those laws to include daycare workers and a ban on public prayers. Quote, we should not be embarrassed to protect our language, our cultures, and our values, Legault repeated in his resignation speech, pointing to his government's language law, known as Bill 96, as another big step in the province's history. And for those who are watching or not familiar with Quebec politics or Canadian politics, secularism and wanting to move away from religion is particularly important in Quebec because it was the last bastion in all of Canada where the Catholic Church and the state were pretty much one. I think that that mode lasted until way until the late 60s. Quebec, often known as being one of Canada's most progressive provinces, was actually the last province in Canada to grant the right to vote to women. Example. So the church's grasp on the province was so strong that the rejection of the church when it happened was so stark and sharp and definitive that this whole pro-secularism model that exists in Quebec probably wouldn't fly anywhere else in Canada. But in Quebec, it is definitely a thing, and it's a very, very sensitive cultural touchstone there. So that's where that comes from. Except that this government really took it way too far in that sense. The premier also steered the province through the COVID-19 pandemic. On Wednesday, Legault looked back on the period as a moment of pride and solidarity, saying he still appreciates the sacrifice the Québécois made to protect others at the time. Quote, I love the people of Quebec, and for me as premier, it was the greatest honor of my life, he added, ending his remarks. There is another bit here with that, hopefully, it might be fairly similar because one was indicating that he would be announcing, and then one is announcing that he did indeed. And it says here that he announced his resignation morning from the National Assembly on Wednesday. And there is a little bit of a clip here, not too long. So I will play it for you. Let's just put it up here. And this is now, I guess, former Premier François Legault. Or, well, actually, I don't know. Maybe not former. He might still be Premier because if he's stepping down until there's a new leader, I'm guessing that they're not going to put up an interim.
And I can guarantee you that every single day I got up in the morning saying to myself, I want to do what is best for the people of Quebec. I didn't always succeed, but I can guarantee you that I tried very hard with all my energy devoted to that task. I want to extend my sincere thanks to the people of Quebec for allowing me to have 2 mandates, and I am deeply touched, and I love the people of Quebec, and for me as Premier, it was the greatest honor of my life. Thank you, everyone.
And there you have that. Unfortunately, through simultaneous interpretation, because I was speaking in French at the time when he was making the announcement, understandably, of course. Let's see here. PNC Bio adds here in the comments, there isn't a tremendous amount of political crossover between Quebec and France, but there's a lot of cultural similarity and definitely a lot of cultural exchange. Absolutely. That is very much true. And let's see, what else do we have here in the chat? Anything else about this? No. Okay. There we go. Oh, no. All right. That's all we got for this. All right. So those were some of the secondary stories, you would say, which is kind of interesting because I don't think I would ever call the premier of the second largest province deciding that he's going to step down a secondary story. But it is when the prime minister is in China at the request of the leader of China at a time where things around the world are going just a little batshit cray-cray. Now, of course, as we mentioned previously on the show, the timing of this trip, we just found out last week that it was going to be happening, at least publicly. I'm sure they didn't just find out last week that it was happening. But after IQ47 south of us did that thing that he did in Venezuela, that got a lot of people talking because that changed the game quickly. There's saber rattling. That's one thing, and then there's actually going in and doing the thing. And pardon me, just got a cough for a second. Thank you for that. So Trump went in and did the thing, and that changed the game for a lot of people, right? Because it took away the ha 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 ha, he's just joking, or ha ha ha, he's so silly. No, the father marker actually did it. So a lot of spines snapped into place, right? People in Greenland didn't think it was all that funny anymore. The talk about Trump needing Greenland. People in Canada, we still remember Trump talking about the cherished 51st state thing, and not too keen on that. He was talking about maybe sending troops into Mexico. I'm sure they're not keen on that, and I don't think that would be a very good idea because I have an idea that the cartels in Mexico are very well organized, and they probably would not take kindly to that. So you kind of have a built-in insurgency there. I talked about taking Cuba, talked about going in and rearranging things in Colombia because he doesn't like their leader, although it seems that they have mended fences very quickly. All of a sudden, after a couple of days of trashing him, it's sort of like, oh, yeah, I talked to the leader of Colombia, and so he told me how certain things were just a profound misunderstanding, and I think we could work together, or something of the sort, right? And of course, the main issue here with Venezuela, of course, is the seizure of the oil. No, the main issue is the invasion of the territory, of course, and putting a, launching and executing a military operation on foreign soil, contrary to all domestic law, which was the case in the United States, because these types of actions are usually supposed to be approved by Congress, and of course, international law, which of course we say it's a violation of international law, but we also have to giggle about that because international law is very difficult, almost unenforceable for all intents and purposes. We basically agree that we're going to respect international law, but there doesn't seem to be much consequence for those who don't, unless you're from a tiny nation, and then they can get you. But other than that, very rarely. So those were concerns. This was very concerning behavior. And the fact that one of the pressure points, because Trump likes to have leverage on people, is, if he can control Venezuelan oil, which is one of the largest supplies, one of the largest known reserves in the world, and Venezuelan oil is very, very similar to Canadian oil. When then Trump goes around and says, well, Canada doesn't have anything we need, even though he wants to acquire all of it, but he doesn't need it, but he wants it. Try to square that. But even though we allegedly have nothing he needs, if he can displace the oil that it gets from us with oil from Venezuela, well, maybe that is another thing that brings us to our knees. It makes us say, oh, please, 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 Uncle Trumpy, don't hurt us anymore. We'll do everything that you want, as you want, when you want, and we'll always kiss your butt. Well, Canadians we're a little special. We don't play that. So we've never really played that, but we don't play that. And it was like, oh yes, I see you at this international poker table at which everyone is cheating. Again, thanks and credit to Beau of the Fifth Column and Belle of the Ranch for that image. I see you sitting at that table, and I see you raising me. Supplanting all of the oil you get from us. So we see you, and we raise you talking to China about replacing the oil from Venezuela that it was getting, that you're going to deny them. And did you know, United States, that you and us basically supply close to the same amount of oil to China per year? And as conservatives, you certainly can understand that having two contracts is so much red tape and so much paperwork. So perhaps China might be interesting in displacing what it gets from you as well, since you're not particularly a reliable partner anymore. That might be happening. But the important part for Canada is that Canada is showing that United States, we are not particularly dependent on you. Yes, we've had a close relationship with you for a long time, and yeah, maybe stupidly on our part. It's because, well, you were just so close by, and you're such a big market, and you're so willing to buy everything that we could just pull it out of the ground, put it on a ship or in a pipeline or something, put our feet on the desk, and tap ourselves on the back for being such good business people. And even though we've negotiated all these free trade agreements, we are the country in the world with the most free trade agreements with every other country. We're the only country of the G7 who has a free trade agreement with every other country in the G7. We never really maximized those agreements because, well, going out to new markets and making new contacts and whatnot, well, that takes work, that takes energy, that takes effort, that takes money. And well, the United States is right there. And well, they always say yes to buying our stuff. So we grew fat and we grew lazy. And we grew complacent, and we were satisfied. I think it was Klaus Kellerman of Klaus Kellerman POV was doing a comparison, comparing Canada to Australia, because Australia is an island and everything that comes in or out has to travel by air or by ship. And they were looking at their economic growth over a certain period of time compared to ours. And during that period, we hadn't grown about 3%, dealing mostly with the United States and all that kind of stuff. But Australia, which doesn't have just one country to sell everything to, and had to diversify and be a global player, who has the strategy that Mark Carney is trying to move us to at this moment, and being way more diversified, their economy grew 6% in that period of time. So we were doing well. We could have been doing better, but we were just not as ambitious because, well, this was easy money. Turns out the imagery that I put out, well, when our man decided that we were not good enough for him anymore, we didn't cry. We didn't go lock ourselves in a room and eat 17 boxes of bonbons in one sitting. No, we went to the bathroom, we shaved our legs, we did our hair, we did our nails, feeling good as hell. And we went out to the singles bar and discovered that we are a hot little number, that people are quite attracted to us and interested in us and feel that we are charming and delightful and we have a wonderful personality, and that they love our nice long legs and our smile and our welcoming nature, and the fact that we are low risk, and the fact that we are predictable and reliable, and the fact that we like a rules-based order. Yeah, turns out we're kind of that in a whole bag of chips. Who knew? So yeah, as we've noticed on our show, our exports to the United States are now the lowest they have been since this data has been recorded. That's kind of interesting. And our exports to around the world are actually higher than they've ever been. So, and for every dollar in trade that we are losing to the United States, we are gaining it and more with international trade. So you see a lot of these tweets or things all over the internet says Canada can't replace the United States with a whole bunch of other countries. It's like actually, yeah, we can. I mean, there are going to be certain things with the United States that we might only be able to get from them that we'll trade on. And, of course, geographically, we're one next to each other. So, I mean, why wouldn't we trade? But the United States is 300 and something million people in a planet of 8 billion plus. Yes, it is the world's largest superpower for now. It doesn't look like that will be the case necessarily 10 to 15 years from now. Just U.S. debt is a big scary thing, and if the United States moves away from being the world's only superpower and becomes just one of several poles in a multipolar world, and let's say the United States is the world starts rediscussing whether or not the US dollar is the world's global reserve currency anymore. That debt, and if there are lots of changes to credit rating agency evaluations, is going to hurt the United States a lot. Trump is bankrupting yet another casino at the moment and is trying to paper over the bad numbers. That tax cut thing, that's not going to serve the nation right. And trying to recuperate that money through tariffs, which, okay, you can paper over that perhaps if you can charge enough tariffs, but he doesn't seem to have the courage to charge the tariffs that he would need to make up the revenue that he's losing. Well, that comes with other consequences, however. It comes with your allies, or once allies, deciding that maybe the grass is greener on some other sides and making new deals and new arrangements that permanently block access to that resource in the future, right? If, let's say, the United States was taking X number percentage of our potash as a fertilizer, and then decides, it's like, well, we don't need anything from Canada, not even your potash. Here's an extra 50% tariff on that. And then Pakistan, Indonesia, China turn around and say, hey, that potash that you were selling to the United States, we would be very interested in receiving some of that because we could use it. Said, sure, let's do that. Let's sign a 20-year contract. When the United States at some point, hopefully 5, 6, 7 years from now, realizes, oh my God, we screwed up. Canada, we need that potash. Can we have that again? Sorry, dudes, it's gone. We had no idea how long this little thing that you were on was going to last. So in the meantime, we made other arrangements. Sorry. And given that more and more countries are bidding and competing for our materials, if it does come back online or if we discover more, the price is obviously going to be higher because, well, more people want it. Same thing with our oil. If you remember, Klaus Kellerman also pointed this out in his videos. Back in the days when we negotiated the first free trade agreement under Mulroney, you have the conservatives who have been complaining. Remember that last election campaign where Pierre Poilievre was going all around to every debate and everywhere he could go saying, we are too reliant on the United States, and that's the fault of the Liberals after the last 10 years. Way back when that free trade agreement was negotiated sometime, I think it was in the 80s, it was, Canada agreed to something called a proportionality clause, which meant that no matter by how much we increased our oil production, the percentage of our oil that went to the United States always had to be the same. So if we were, pumping out, let's say, 100 barrels a day, of course we pump out way more, and we were selling 75 of them to the United States, if we were able to bring online the capacity to pump up another 100 barrels per day, 75 of that would also have to go to the United States. We wouldn't be free to sell that other 100 barrels to whomever we wanted. That portion had to go. So no matter how much we grew our oil production, the same percentage would always be going to the United States minimum, thus really locking us into that market. That's why all the oil infrastructure, all the pipelines run north-south. That's why all the refineries are down there. We didn't really build many of our own during that time. It was all of that system. Well, now that didn't work out for us. Ultimately, when you look back, for those who were alive at the time, look back at the free trade debate between John Turner and Brian Mulroney, when John Turner was talking about handing away so much of our sovereignty, and Brian Mulroney was like most of us were at the time, it's like it's the United States, they're our best friends. We don't have to worry about that. It's like we've been best friends forever. We will be best friends forever. Like, come on, we're just too close. We're just too intertwined. That'll never happen. Well, surprise. Seems John Turner may have been a little more prescient than anybody had given him credit for at that time. That yes, maybe it was not a good idea to go that all in. And if you've been looking at the socials now, now that the prime minister is in China, everybody's talking about, wow, you say, if you think you think the United States is bad, let's take a look at what China has been doing. So you have all these conservatives who, during Harper's term, signed us on to a 31-year deal with China, the terms of which we still do not know, because a lot of that was secret. A deal that was signed in Russia. There should have been a sign for you. Because these people who signed us on to FIPA for 31 years today are saying, these are the same people that said, hey, why aren't we paying more attention to our most important relationship, the one with the United States? Why are we dealing with China? It's like, if you've not been paying attention, the person that's leading the nation that does have our most important trade relationship has just said again that we have nothing he needs. Our number one client is expressly stating he no longer wants to be our number one client. And the conservative response is, why aren't you trying to keep the guy that no longer wants to be our number one client? Why aren't you dedicating all of your resources to that and your energy and your time? What are you doing in China? It's like, so the same people who negotiated this deal with China are now complaining that we're negotiating with China. One, the same people who in the last election campaign that just happened not even a year ago, who said that it was the liberals who made us too dependent on China, on the United States, now want us to focus all our intentions and all our attention on negotiating a better deal with the United States, rather than diversifying our trade with China. They want to keep us, they run on diversifying us, but they really want to keep us locked in. They run on anti-China stuff, but then when they get in power, they surrender to China. These are the same people when Trudeau detained Meng Wanzhou, the executive at Huawei, at the request of the United States, because we have an extradition treaty. They were the same people that were saying, musing aloud, oh, gee, when she got to the border and we found out it was her, we should have just let her pass by and let the United States deal with it. That way we wouldn't have the troubles that we had with China. Yeah, that's really standing up. Disrespecting your international agreements in one, and then taking the easy way out. And then number two, they were the ones saying, well, just let her go already. Just let her go already. What China's doing to us is it's hurting too much. Just let her go. Cave to China. Let China know that if they engage in hostage diplomacy, they can have whatever they want from us. That was the conservative position. The people are saying now, the same people who are saying now, oh my God, I can't believe that Carney is negotiating something with a terrible country like China. We're basically begging the Trudeau government to allow China to impose China law on Canada. The inconsistency is jaw-dropping. But the Prime Minister is going to keep calm and Carney on, and is doing what he does, and is gone to China, sending a very powerful message to the entire world. And the United States is watching. It's like, yeah, I don't think you've quite understood yet that when you dumped us, we realized, at first we thought that maybe our world was ending, but we took a breath, and as Becky Hill would sing, realized that we are better off without you. We are. We actually are starting to establish a more independent foreign policy and an independent trade policy. And that's only going to be to our advantage in the future. As we've noticed, we mentioned, right? I think it was from September to October, our trade with countries, exports to countries, not the US, climbed between 11 and 12% month over month. And then the month following that, it climbed between 15 and 16%. We are doing very well at reorienting our trade. And this is part of the strategy, right? There's a lot of people in Canada who want us at every opportunity to manifest that elbows up means that we every time we have an opportunity to visibly punch Trump right in the face, boom, like this, and then spike the football when we do it. Yeah, we should take, which obviously is not a smart strategy, right? Being visibly pugnacious and then trying to get credit for it and stunting on it is probably not the type of thing that will get us treatment from Trump. We have the advantage of there being 190 countries in the world, and Trump seems to want to be trying to take them all at once, which is not a smart decision. But if he's going to do that, that means Trump has plenty of opportunities to be distracted by things going on in many other countries and things that leaders of other countries say, while we quietly in the background just do our own little thing, reorganizing little chess pieces here and there, and hopefully he doesn't see some of the moves. And I really, 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 really hope that our defense department is negotiating something with France and the UK, asking them if they need us to babysit some of their nukes for a little while. Because, and that we could do that quietly, because it would sure be a surprise for the United States to find out, should they want to go Venezuela on us, that, oh, by the way, say hello to our little friend. Oh, you didn't know we had one. Yeah, we do. We do. And as we said with Kit Hugh, maybe a few dirty maple bombs, because we do have everything we need to have that. Maybe we want to have a couple of those just ready. Just to say. Just to say. Deterrence sometimes works. Or at least showing a bully that you are not going to be the slowest gazelle, that maybe they would be better off if they want to catch a gazelle running after someone else first for a while. But every moment that they are doing that, chasing someone else, because they'd rather pick the easier fight should be time that you are fortifying yourself as quickly as you can. So when they're done with the other fight and see, okay, well, now I've gone into Venezuela. Now people can see that I've done it. The madman theory of the world. Oh my God, he's crazy enough to do it. Let's kowtow. He picked Venezuela for a reason, because it wasn't going to be a particularly difficult fight. If he goes after Cuba next, it would be the same thing. It's a little different when you're dealing with a NATO country. It's a little different. More on that later. But with regard to Mark Carney, there's a lot of things. There is. Let's look at the first little bit of a recap of what happened yesterday, and there is some legitimate criticism, things we need to watch out for, happening as well, and we'll get into that. But according to Kyle Duggan of the Canadian Press, Prime Minister Mark Carney has landed in Beijing, marking the first visit by a Canadian Prime Minister to China in 8 years. Carney will meet with senior communist leaders on Thursday ahead of a Friday meeting with President Xi Jinping and a business banquet. It's the first visit by a Canadian Prime Minister since China detained 2 Canadians for nearly 3 years in 2019 in retaliation for the arrest of a Chinese tech executive in Vancouver on a U.S. extradition warrant. Prime Minister Mark Carney and says here that Prime Minister Mark Carney's Canadian delegation, including 5 government ministers, has arrived in Beijing for high-stake talks with Chinese leaders, and said that we might looking at maybe some relief on some agricultural tariffs along the way. Carney has talked about advancing trade and environmental cooperation with China while keeping Beijing away from sectors that touch on national security or the Arctic. China wants to get into the Arctic conversation by calling itself a near-Arctic nation. Of course, the answer from the world should be near Arctic is not good enough, Gretchen. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's never going to happen. A major issue this week will be China's heavy tariffs on pork, canola, and seafood, which were imposed after Ottawa ordered tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, steel, and aluminium. Western and Atlantic premiers are hoping China drops these tariffs, with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe visiting China during Carney's stay. But Ontario Premier Doug Ford said Tuesday he's very concerned Canada might drop policies he said are necessary to protect the Canadian auto sector. Experts see the trip as a short but consequential visit as China and Canada try to move past years of diplomatic tensions, and Ottawa pushes to double non-U.S. trade by 2035. The trip comes after years of warnings about Chinese electoral interference in Canada, mounting human rights concerns involving the Uyghur minority and free speech in Hong Kong, and military actions aimed at broadening China's territory beyond the nautical zone laid out by the United Nations. Those issues prompted the Liberals in 2022 to brand China, quote, a disruptive global power that does not share Canada's values. Carney's government has since described Beijing as a strategic partner and recently advised 2 Liberal MPs to wrap up a Taiwan visit early to avoid confusion over Ottawa's policy of not recognizing the self-governing island as an independent country. Mark Carney also ran during the election when asked who was the biggest threat to Canada during the election, stating that it was China, and that there's a lot of people that are saying, well, you said the biggest threat was China when we ran the election. Look at you, China now. Might I suggest that a couple of things might have changed on the global chessboard since April? Perhaps a couple of things have changed. Yeah. The Conservative inability to pivot was one of the hallmarks of the last election, one of the hallmarks of the Conservative Party following the election. We live in a world now where the sands underneath our feet are changing fast and sometimes at the whims of one man. If we are calcified, if we are not nimble, we can get left behind very quickly. In foreign policy, certain statements that we make, like the most dangerous company, the biggest country, the biggest threat to Canada at the moment is China, that changes when your biggest ally suddenly decides that they don't need anything from you, starts musing about annexing you, and then launches a national security strategy saying that they want to be the dominant force in the hemisphere because they know that their grip on being the global force in the world is starting to slip. And they've told Americans all of their lives from the time that they were in the womb that, well, America was exceptional. Well, if you drop from number 1 to number 3 in the world, you're no longer as exceptional. So let's start moving the Overton window to talking about hemispheric dominance, where there aren't really many countries in the Americas that rival the United States in terms of size and scope and all that kind of stuff. And let's just be content talking about being a hemispheric power rather than a global power, and how exceptional we are at being the hemispheric power. It's just a slight change of the window, right? So things change quickly. And if you say, well, we've always said that the United States is our best ally like this, well, I don't know how much more proof you need that this is no longer the case. But rest assured that this is no longer the case. All right, we have a little bit of a report here from Ashley Burke of CBC talking about the Prime Minister's arrival to China. And we'll present that for you right about here. That up, and here we go.
Mark Carney's plane touched down in Beijing, the first Canadian Prime Minister to step foot in China for an official visit in nearly a decade. A nighttime arrival with the military guard, flowers, and ambassadors ahead of a significant 2-day visit. Carney's looking for a reset in relations less than a year after he called China the biggest security threat to Canada. The Foreign Affairs Minister traveling with Carney calls the relationship with China complex. Anita Anand declined to answer when asked if she still believes China is an increasingly disruptive global power, as Liberals have said in the past.
This is a new government with a new Prime Minister, a new foreign policy, and a new geopolitical environment. In this moment of economic stress for our country, it is necessary for us to diversify our trading partners.
The government wants to...
All right, that quote from Anita Anand, Kits and Cubs, is literally her saying in a couple of seconds in a very diplomatic speak that which I was just saying there. And it's like, yes, we know we say that, but things have changed, people. It's the new prime minister and the new stuff like is different, but we do have a new foreign policy and we do have a new worldview, much different one than we had during the last election, prompted by the actions of the United States. But yeah, things have changed. We found out that our man wasn't. We realized that our man wasn't treating us right, and then we developed a little bit of self-esteem and realized that we deserve better. So we went out looking for it. I mean, if that makes our now former man unhappy, then got nobody to blame but himself for letting a good thing like us go. But we're not going to cry about it. It was for him to see what he had. Let's go back to the story here. Whoops. Let's try that.
Export more petroleum and liquefied natural gas to markets in Asia like China. Carney is also trying to get relief for Canada's agriculture sector. China has put tariffs on Canadian canola and other products after Canada matched American tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. And the Prime Minister wants to move past years of tension after China detained Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig.
One of the challenges of dealing with China, right, is that it weaponizes not only economic relations like trade in canola, it weaponizes access.
Carney is traveling with a delegation of 5 ministers, signaling the importance of this trip. There will be an official welcome ceremony for Carney, and he's expected to meet with the Premier of China on Thursday to sign some agreements about where they can cooperate. A Canadian official also says Carney will be meeting with the President of China on Friday. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Beijing.
All right. And Kits and cubs, just let's do that. You know, again, that the United States is watching this. You know for a fact that Donald Trump is watching this. And you know, without any doubt whatsoever, that certain images in this report, the way that the Prime Minister was greeted when he arrived in China, these images are probably just killing him. Right?
But the military.
Whoops, sorry. Because these images are not showing a country that is on its knees bowing to his pressure. And you know that Trump would love nothing more than to be received like this, should he make a trip to China. So we are seeing a juxtaposition happen on the world stage, and the world is getting to see it between two different leadership styles. Trump, who is seemingly haphazard and chaos-oriented, and someone with whom you cannot negotiate a deal because he doesn't want one, right? What he wants is to constantly have you on the back foot, and negotiating a deal is not conducive to doing that, or at least negotiating a deal that was the terms of which you would respect. And of course, from the United States also showing that, at least under Trump, that the value of his word, but the value of the word of the United States of America as a country is not worth the paper it's printed on at the moment. Versus, again, another transatlantic partner who is willing to obey the rule-based orders, is willing to make trade, is willing to be reliable, predictable, who has all the things that the world needs: oil, critical minerals, agricultural products, fertilizers, all that type of stuff. Plus, we're pretty good on stuff like AI and quantum and aerospace. And right, there's a lot of fields in which we have particular expertise. We're not all about resources here in this country. And maybe it is in the best interest of other nations for the century that is coming to place more of its eggs in the Canadian basket. There has even been talk, remember we had economist David Gray talk about maybe one day the Canadian dollar potentially replacing the US as the global reserve currency. Something as Canadians, who tend to be a little modest, we just cannot imagine happening. But it could. The two biggest candidates, if the bottom falls out of the United States, are the euro and the Canadian dollar. Imagine a world in which the Canadian dollar is the global reserve currency, and all the benefits and privileges that come with that. One of the reasons the United States is able to have such a high debt and carry such high debt with a favorable credit ratings is because the US dollar is the global reserve currency. Take that away. And that's why I keep on smirking to myself when I say that it's so nice to have a leader of a country who understands the global bond markets. Because you can really screw another nation up if you understand them. Just saying. Legit criticism, however, so the criticism from the conservatives, oh my God, I can't believe we're dealing with China and all that kind of stuff, not particularly legit and not credible considering the source. However, kids and cubs, there were a few issues, and one of them mentioned in the story was about two Canadians who had been in Taiwan at the time that the Prime Minister's trip to China was starting. And they were asked, according to Kate McKennick, there were two Liberal MPs. It says here, the federal Conservatives are accusing the Liberals of rewarding Beijing's intimidation after some parliamentarians on a trip to Taiwan decided to return earlier than planned. Two Liberal MPs say they are leaving Taiwan, quote, informed by advice from the government. The parliamentary delegation to Taiwan, which includes MPs from multiple parties, overlaps with the Prime Minister's trip to China. Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to embark on a 4-day trip to China this week, intended to reset relations with the foreign power. It will be the first visit from a Canadian Prime Minister since 2017 and will include a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Conservative foreign affairs critics Michael Chong accused the Liberals of acquiescing to Chinese pressure. Quote, 2 Liberal MPs cutting short a visit to Taiwan because of pressure from government officials is nothing short of kowtowing to Beijing's authoritarianism, Chong said in a statement. This kind of retreat weakens our democracy, our relationship with Taiwan. Liberal MPs Helena Jacek and Marie-France Lalonde were on the trip along with 3 Conservative MPs, Melissa Lantsman, Adam Chambers, and Shelby Cramp Newman. The trip was sponsored by the government of Taiwan and included meetings with Taiwanese officials. Quote, as this portion of the visit concludes, informed by advice from the government, we are returning home, the 2 Liberal MPs said in a statement. It's important that we avoid confusion with Canada's foreign policy, given the overlap with the Prime Minister's engagement in Beijing, which was confirmed only last week. And here is the thing. Both of them kind of have a point. It does look bad. And did anybody know really that they were there? And did we bring more attention to the fact that they were there by pulling them back? Yes. On the other hand, as we say on this show, when you're trying to communicating a message, the one thing you want to do, right, is eliminate all unnecessary noise from your message. And if the Prime Minister is going to China to negotiate deeper relationships, at least in terms of trade, but we have 2 MPs from the government in Taiwan, which China says they have an issue with. And our official position is that we do recognize China one policy, because I would still believe that is our policy here. Then it is confusing. It does send mixed messages to China that there are 2 MPs from the government in Taiwan at the behest or at the invitation of the government of Taiwan, while the Prime Minister is going to China. Now, and pulling them back does send the message. That is true. However, we didn't call back the entire delegation. There's 5 MPs, 3 Conservatives, 2 Liberals. Only the 2 Liberals came back. The 3 Conservatives were not called back. So Canada did maintain its presence in Taiwan. It's just the government itself didn't have presence in Taiwan and in China simultaneously at the same time. Now, had the federal government given the issue to all 5 of them to come back, one could say that we were kowtowing. But if the other 3 got to stay and only the 2 Liberals came back, then more likely it was just an attempt to eliminate noise. In other words, to put the chips on our side, not to make our road, not to make harder our row let's try that again. Not to make our row harder to hoe or the hill that we are climbing steeper. So legitimate criticism, it can be viewed both ways. But I think the subtle nuance here is that Canada didn't retract the entire delegation, just the 2 MPs specifically from the government. The article goes on. The trip was sponsored by the government of Taiwan, and included meetings with Taiwanese officials, as I mentioned before. As this portion of the visit concludes, informed by advice from the government, we are returning home, the 2 Liberal MPs said in a statement. It's important that we avoid confusion with Canada's foreign policy, given the overlap with the Prime Minister's engagement in Beijing, which was only confirmed last week. The decision comes at a time of heightened tension between Beijing and Taiwan. The Chinese government claims sovereignty over democratically governed Taiwan, and the communist leadership has not excluded military intervention. News of the Liberal MPs leaving the trip early was first reported by the Globe and Mail. The Conservative MPs planned to finish the scheduled trip. Chong's statement said the Conservative MPs were not asked to return home. There you go. And here, with regard to this as well, what the United States is doing in Venezuela does help China with regards to Taiwan, because if China were to do to Taiwan what the United States just did to Venezuela, the United States has no longer has any moral high ground or diplomatic leg to stand on to be criticizing China. China could just turn around and says, well, since you guys like whatabouts, what about Venezuela? Now, shut the F up and let us do with China, with Taiwan, what we will, because we didn't stop you in Venezuela. That's the way the world works now. You made the rules. You opened the door, counselor. We're just walking through it. The statement from Jacek and Lalonde says that Canada's position on Taiwan has not changed. Canada follows the One China policy, a diplomatic stance that acknowledges China's claim that Taiwan is part of China, but maintains unofficial relations with Taiwan. Canadian parliamentarians visit Taiwan regularly, with the travel often sponsored by the foreign government. So that was one area of legitimate criticism. The other one may or may not be as legitimate. You could debate that for yourselves, but it did appear in the Hill Times, and this is by Stuart Benson. Hopefully, I will be able to access it here. Just give me a second, and I will see if it's there. I believe it is, and yes, it is. So this has other criticisms here that are important to note. As the Prime Minister travels to China this week in a bid to reset the fractured diplomatic and trade relationship, critics and diaspora groups are accusing his government of slow-walking the long-awaited foreign influence registry to prioritize economic concerns over safeguarding Canada's democratic institutions. As you know, we had a foreign interference inquiry, and it was sort of found during it that China was a very, very, very active participant in interference organizations and interference activities, particularly things with regard to transnational repression, which, of course, is a frightening thing for people who are experiencing this in our diaspora communities, and needs to be addressed. Quote, if this government is looking to move forward with expanding trade with China, they need to do it with eyes wide open and the proper safeguards to protect Canadians, NDP MP Jenny Kwan from Vancouver East, BC, told the Hill Times. Quote, they have failed entirely on that. I think it's a little too early to determine whether or not something's failed. They've just started. Kwan, her party's public safety and national security critic, accused Prime Minister Mark Carney of, quote, dragging his feet on the implementation of the long-awaited Foreign Influence Transparency and Accountability Act, Bill C-70, despite its expedited passage with the support of every opposition party in June 2024. The draft regulations for the bill were published earlier this month, as we reported, in the Canada Gazette, beginning a 30-day consultation period that ends on February 2nd. The draft details the requirement for the proposed foreign influence registry, including information that organizations and individuals operating in Canada will need to provide when entering into an agreement with a foreign entity to influence Canadian institutions and officials. Businesses, financial trusts and partnerships, nonprofits and charities and educational institutions would all be required to register as part of the proposed registry, with identifying information regarding those involved, the details of the arrangement, including the purpose and nature of the influence activity, published in a public registry. The regulations also lay out the administrative monetary penalties for noncompliance or failing to register within 14 days of entering into an agreement, ranging from $50 to $1 million, as well as criminal penalties for more serious infractions with a maximum fine of up to $5 million and or up to 5 years in prison. The document estimates that approximately 872 individuals and 1,550 businesses would be affected by the proposed regulations, with roughly 1,767 registrants required to submit information annually and an estimated additional 54 new registrants each year. Those estimates are based on registration rates under Australia's Foreign Agent Registry, which is set up on 2018. The proposed regulations cannot be fully implemented until Carney's government appoints a commissioner to head the registry. Last August, Public Safety Minister Gani Anandan-Sangari, MP for Scarborough-Gilwood Rouge Park in Ontario, told CBC News the long-awaited commissioner would be named in September 2025, with the registry to launch later in the fall. According to the legislation, the appointment of the commissioner is to be made after consultations with the leader of the opposition, the leader of each recognized party, with at least 12 members in the House of Commons, and leaders of every other recognized party or parliamentary group in the Senate. The appointment will also require approval by resolution in both parliamentary chambers. In a statement to the Hill Times, Simon Lafortune, Anandan-Sangari's press secretary, said that the registry can only be officially launched once the regulations have been finalized and the commissioner has been appointed, and that a secure IT solution will be procured through a third-party contract. The regulations estimate a cost of $1.25 million in 2026 for the development and acquisition of the IT system, with annual maintenance and support costs estimated at $500,000 per year until 2030. Quote, the regulations are an essential step in getting the registry up and running and establish requirements necessary to implement the FITAA, which is, again, I'm going to look up for the acronym because I mentioned it earlier, the Foreign Influence Transparency and Accountability Act. So yes, so here it says the regulations are an essential step in getting the registry up and running and establish requirements necessary to implement the act, including the necessary details to establish the registry, wrote La Fortune. The creation of the registry will also help to strengthen Canada's democratic institutions and political processes by discouraging covert or deceptive foreign influence activities. Foreign influence transparency remains a priority for the Government of Canada, and we will be launching the registry as soon as possible. On January 7th, the National Post reported that multiple government sources had indicated that a candidate had been chosen, but was still undergoing the approval process, which will eventually include consultations with opposition parties. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's office confirmed to the Hill Times that the Liberal government had not yet made contact to initiate those consultations. In response to the draft regulations, Conservative MP Frank Caputo, representing Kamloops, Thompson, Nicola in British Columbia, his party's public safety critic, called the Liberals' failure to implement Bill C-70 or name a commissioner, quote, no surprise, as the Liberals have a long history of failing to combat foreign interference. And so do the Conservatives, of course, because we needed the inquiry in the last term of the Liberals because successive governments did not do enough over the past years. Frank Caputo likes to start history at the time that the Liberals took power last and doesn't like to include all the Harper years. Stephen Harper was now the chairman of the IDU, which doesn't engage in any foreign interference at all. I think that deserves a little tea. Okay. Let's keep moving. In a statement released on January 5th, Caputo wrote that without a registry, the Liberals, quote, have no idea how many foreign agents operate inside of Canada or what they do. But we just listed how many people we thought would have to register. Okay. Adding that the failure to implement one coupled with the proposed minimum financial penalties of $50 are not the actions of a government that takes foreign interference seriously. I'm going to guess that a $50 fine is for an infraction that is super minor, like, I don't know, having reported it elsewhere, but having forgotten to do a final entry somewhere. And that the one that says up to $5 million and 5 years in jail is for bigger stuff. So focusing that the lowest end could be $50 because I don't know. I'm going to guess that the greater minds that understand all of this can see infractions that are worthy of jail and infractions that are like, come on, that was just dumb. Here's a $50 fine. Like, smarten up. Don't do that again. Right? There's got to be a whole range of potential foreign activities in terms of compliance with whatever this list would require that don't deserve somebody to be bankrupted or thrown in jail. So, again, this is not a serious comment from a serious party. From communist Beijing police stations operating in Canada to discovering that hundreds of Hamas-affiliated operatives have domestic ties, foreign interference continues to multiply due to Liberal inaction, Caputo wrote. In a January 12th statement, Kwan wrote that Canadians are being asked, quote, to trust a system that does not yet exist, and that the continued delay in appointing a commissioner for the registry, quote, undermines the Hague Commission's findings and further puts Canadian democracy at risk. Equally troubling is the fact that the government's proposed regulations do not fully comply with the intention of the act itself, Kwan wrote, noting that, quote, Parliament was explicit in its intention that it applied to officials from all levels of government. Additionally, Kwan criticized the lack of registration requirements for individuals linked to foreign-funded institutions or media outlets, quote, which only serves to undermine confidence and accountability in the system and leaves Canadians in the dark. I would definitely like, for sure, that it includes foreign-funded institutions and or media outlets, particularly media outlets. In an interview with the Hill Times on January 9th, Kwan said the Liberals could, quote, can have regulations coming out of your eyeballs, but if there's no one to enforce them, it doesn't matter. It's 2026 and we still have to appoint a commissioner, Kwan said. Carney is dragging his feet and not taking seriously the damage foreign interference can do to this country. I would dare to counter-argue to Ms. Kwan that the fact that the Prime Minister is going all around the world trying to diversify our economy as rapidly as possible so that when we get back to a time where the United States wants to come back to the table to negotiate on something that we can turn around and says, oh, well, you know what? Had you made that proposal 8 months ago, we would have said, yeah, we have to take that. But things have changed over the last 8 months, and now we don't have to take that bad deal anymore. So, no, you'll have to come up with something better. I would say that that is someone who takes seriously the damage that foreign interference can do to this country. Ms. Kwan, your personal mileage may vary, but I have the impression that the Prime Minister is actually rather seized with the issue. While Kwan said that the Carney government is sending the message to Canadians, particularly diaspora communities in the crosshairs of transnational repression, that their concerns about foreign interference are not a priority, she said that same message is also being sent to the perpetrators. Quote, the Liberals are sending a clear message to those foreign interference actors that this is not a priority for the government and that they continue to run amok, Kwan said. On that point, again, these are things that there is a certain amount of validity to some of these comments here. So not dismissing everything that Ms. Kwan is saying here. There's a lot of stuff that is indeed true. Members of the diaspora community could indeed be feeling, by virtue of the fact that we are having more rapprochement with China and India, two countries known to engage in transnational repression, that we don't really care about them. It's like, how could you be dealing with them when they do these terrible things to our family? That's a position I can understand. Right? But the opposition party exploiting that, again, their tragedy and their misery, is to present this as a broad position and not wanting to give any credit whatsoever to the government for making moves that have to be made or wanting to deliver these comments while conveniently disposing of certain contextual realities that exist at the moment in order to make the narrative fit. Not the way I would go about it. Again, if I respect my constituents and I respect my audience, I would tell a bit more of the full story, because you can make these points while telling the full story without being economical with other elements of the truth. And yes, the Liberals could be sending a message to those foreign interference actors that this is not the priority of the government by doing that. But you have to remember, in diplomacy, there are a lot of conversations that happen not on the public record. So with regard to China, for example, it's usually a very bad idea, if you want to get something done, to publicly criticize them with cameras on. But there has been no lack of Canadian leaders, Jean Chrétien in particular, who, when the doors were closed, had no problem telling China what flies and does not fly in Canada, but they just didn't publicly humiliate them in the process of doing it. So sometimes these conversations are best had behind closed doors. Sometimes you do need to make a public statement, because sometimes you need to be seen doing the thing. But you don't need to be seen doing the thing all the time. Again, if we're talking elbows up when the ref is not looking and you got an opportunity. But if you play the whole match with your elbows up, you're going to spend a lot of time in the sin bin. Right? Diaspora groups who spoke with the Hill Times said that Carney's trip to China this week, while leaving Canada without an operational foreign influence registry, quote, underscores a critical gap in Canada's ability to address foreign interference and leaves Canadians without basic transparency. That part is true. At a time of heightened geopolitical tension, this lack of accountability undermines public trust and weakens democratic safeguards, said Lanson Chan, a spokesperson for Hong Kong Watch. Economic engagement must not come at the expense of democratic integrity or human rights. Trade discussions cannot overshadow the responsibility to protect Canada's institution and electoral processes. Chan added that while Carney's trip is being presented as an effort to strengthen trade and investment, Canada can pursue global engagement without compromising its values. Gloria Fung, a spokesperson for the Canadian Foreign Influence Transparency Registry Coalition, told the Hill Times that she has difficulty explaining the delay in implementing the registry, aside from concerns about, quote, offending China. Quote, I wonder whether our government has forgotten all the lessons we learned from the exposure of malicious foreign interference through the public inquiry, Fung said, pointing to the findings of Justice Marie-Josée Hogg's final Foreign Interference Commission report released last January. Released January 28th, 2025, UG's report warned that, quote, the fight against foreign interference will be a never-ending battle, requiring, quote, relentless effort and perseverance, and that China is, quote, the most active perpetrator of state-based foreign interference in Canada, followed by India. Quote, Canada cannot seek to recalibrate trade with China at the expense of our national security, Fang said. I really want to give the Prime Minister a serious warning to remember the lessons learned from our previous over-reliance on China. Again, over-reliance on China, not really. Only 3% of our trade goes to China, even though it is our number 2 trading partner, but in numbers, that can be a lot. However, we have had over-dependence in certain sectors. With China taking that much of our canola, it was easy for them to apply those 100% sanctions and do a lot of damage. So one of the things that's going on is that if we are moving to this multipolar world where there will be sort of like 4 or 5 poles, we'll have India, we'll have China, there'll be Russia, if it stands alone, it's not a complete vassal state of China by the time that happens, United States, perhaps Iran or Israel or Saudi Arabia, somewhere in there, maybe another one. The point is the moral argument is you can't be doing deals with the devil. But if the United States and China and India and Russia, right, and Saudi Arabia are all, or Israel, are all devils, if they're all devils, then the point is about not making deals with devils. It's making enough deals with all of the devils so that when one decides to become devilish, we're not stranded. So, yes, let's keep on sending canola to China, but maybe not 70 or 80% of it. Maybe there should be a cap at not more than 20, and that we have other markets. Right now, as we mentioned, canola has just arrived in Pakistan, renewing. We have a free trade deal with Indonesia, the 4th most populous country in the world. They might need some canola at some point. We have a free trade deal with Ecuador. They might need canola at some point. We are negotiating free trade deals with the whole ASEAN bloc, and specifically with Thailand and the Philippines. They might need canola. So if we keep on spreading that canola out to various other nations, maybe Europe might be needing some too, and reduce the share, the proportion. If we deproportionalized, then maybe if we have a deal with China and India and the United States and Russia and Saudi Arabia for canola, and none of them have more than 10% of our supply, well, then they can't really use the canola lever to try to get us to do what they're doing. So that's my take. It's not the fact that we're not supposed to deal with devils, if devils there are. It's the fact that we don't have so many of our eggs tied in the basket with just one devil. And if, like I said, we are moving to a multipolar world where all the pole leaders are devils, then, right, it's up to us to get to know the devils, right? Sometimes you dance with the devil you know, and sometimes you don't. National security expert and former Canadian Security Intelligence Service analyst Stephanie Carvin told the Hill Times that while Canada can't afford to ignore an economy of nearly 1.5 billion people, she is concerned that the Carney government is, quote, moving full steam ahead without taking the necessary steps to safeguard Canada's national security and its diaspora communities. That is a concern because we do have to move fast because the United States is moving fast, and there is the opportunity for some things to slip through the crack despite the best of intentions when you are moving fast. So it's important to be doubly and triply meticulous if you are moving fast, then put extra attention on being thorough to make sure that you don't set yourself up for a nasty surprise in the future. But that's true. That is a risk of moving fast, that you may not have thought of everything. Quote, it's obvious that the trade agenda has overtaken the foreign interference agenda given the threats from the United States. Again, things have changed. But these two issues should move hand in hand, not one or the other, Carvin said. So it's unfortunate that the latter has fallen so far behind because it sends the signal that the government isn't as concerned as it should be, intentionally or not. Jumping into these negotiations without taking steps to reassure those communities that you are addressing their concerns is just adding complications to this overall agenda, Carvin added. If those communities felt more reassured about foreign interference, I think it would make it easier overall for Carney to advance his trade agenda. That's probably true. But again, given the speed at which we have to move, that's probably not possible. However, before we sign something major, because I have a feeling that we are going to have some announceables from this visit at some point, but they probably won't be big ones. They probably won't be like total lifting of tariffs on EVs in exchange for total lifting of tariffs on the agricultural products. There might be some announcements that have nothing to do with the trade irritants, a lot of stuff on environmental cooperation, green stuff, maybe student visas, person-to-person, cultural exchanges, that type of stuff. There may be some agreements on that, but there's going to have to be, I'm pretty sure, some type of announcement of some kind with regard to some of the major irritants here, because this seems like a lot of production. And again, at the behest, the invitation of President Xi, who, let's be honest, with what the United States is doing, things are changing rapidly for him as well on the ground. And therefore, right now, Canada and China do have a vested interest in the sense that, hello? Yeah, Canada, this is China. Your neighbor to the south, being a kind of dick to you, isn't he? Yeah, being a kind of dick to us too, actually. We have like a 40-year plan, and he's kind of messing it up. I'm guessing that you have a multi-year plan. He's kind of messing it up too, right? Yeah? Maybe we should talk. How about the 13th to the 17th? Just saying. Could be happening. Also, on that front, as we mentioned, the Prime Minister will be going to India, one of the other poles, but was also announced that the Prime Minister in April will be taking a trip to a nation that I mentioned a couple of months ago that Canada should really be on the phone with and we should be trying to become besties with. And that country is Brazil, according to the Canadian press. Brazilian Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says Prime Minister Mark Carney accepted an invitation to visit Brazil in April. In a social media post, Lula said he spoke with Carney each Thursday afternoon in addition to the travel invitation. Lula said both leaders condemned the United States' use of force in Venezuela and called for reform to global governance institutions. This is the first time that we are hearing that Canada is condemning the United States' use of force in Venezuela. In our official statement, we did not say whether we condemned or supported. We just welcomed the opportunity to have democracy in Venezuela that would be Venezuelan-led, which made a lot of conservatives' minds just explode when we said that we wanted it to be Venezuelan-led. But here, through, this is sometimes why I say it's important to read the readouts from the leaders of the other countries, and not just your own, because sometimes there's news that they share in it that your country doesn't share, and that you can find out. So it seems that we do condemn the United States' use of force in Venezuela. We just didn't really say it out loud. We're doing it diplomatically, one-on-one, in small conversations. Again, allowing certain people maybe to save a little face. Quote, we exchanged views on the situation in Venezuela and its implications for the region. We condemned the use of force without support in the United Nations Charter and international law and agreed on the need for reform of global governance institutions. A readout from the Prime Minister's office says the two leaders discussed Venezuela and committed to a Venezuelan-led transition process that respects the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. See? Two different points of I'm thinking of the word in French and it's not coming to me in English. I'm sorry. Yes, they are definitely highlighting two specifically different points here. The PMO readout says Carney and Lula discussed the necessity for all parties to uphold international law and the principles of sovereignty, but it doesn't refer directly to the United States' capture of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. In an early morning military operation last Saturday in the Venezuelan capital Caracas, U.S. forces captured Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. Both were transported to New York, where they have pleaded not guilty to drug charges. The PMO readout does not mention any plans for Carney to visit Brazil in April. In an emailed response, the PMO spokesperson referred to the readout of the call and Carney's past comments on Venezuela, but did not indicate whether Carney is planning a visit to Brazil in April. In June, Lula said Carney had accepted an invitation to attend the annual UN climate talks that were taking place in Belém, a port city in northern Brazil. However, Carney did not end up going to the COP30. And if you remember, the overall context with Brazil is that the president of the United States threatened Brazil with 50% sanctions, and I believe imposed them, because the government of Brazil dared to prosecute the former leader of its country, who also attempted a coup in order to remain in power, but his did not work, and Bolsonaro has been sentenced to jail. Donald Trump did not like the concept of a country holding its leader who attempted to stage a coup being held criminally liable and found guilty in court and going to jail. That's not a narrative he wants in the global public sphere. So he tried to get to the government of Brazil to impose Trump law in Brazil. And Brazil basically, especially Lula da Silva, has no F's left to give when it comes to Trump. Neither does Carney, by the way. They're just having two different approaches. Lula da Silva is more belligerent and in your face, whereas Mark Carney is very happy to let other people stand up, and so that Trump can play whack-a-mole while we quietly do our business in the background. But yes, these are two leaders that definitely don't have much love for the President of the United States finally getting together. Brazil also, one of the, other than Canada and the United States, probably the largest country in the Americas in terms of size, physically, and probably also in terms of population. So if there's any two countries with which Canada should become very good friends with, if we are going to have some continental resistance to the "this is our hemisphere" talk from the United States, because hello, but in case you didn't notice, this is our hemisphere too. It would be Brazil and Mexico. So yeah, very interesting moves and positioning taking place there as well. Kits and Cubs. Also interesting that the Canadian releases are not talking about anything about the Prime Minister going there in April, but the Brazilian one is. Just little interesting notes. Kits and Cubs, I have so much more for you today on this list, but we are already past 2 hours. So I'm just going to take a look to see if there's anything else here on China. Nope. I do have a couple of other things, but the Prime Minister is going to be in China for a few days, so I can carry that till tomorrow. The one other thing that I did want to mention very quickly, since we're talking about these international relations, is that I don't know if you notice, but the President of the United States rhetoric on Iran and Greenland appears to be changing somewhat. With regard to Iran, the president was out there specifically saying, that the United States might have to look at intervening somehow on that territory. And it seems that there has been a slight change in rhetoric, whereas the president is now saying that he has been told, quote, on good authority, that plans for executions in Iran have stopped. But the backdrop is that Tehran has indicated that fast trials and executions ahead are still coming in its crackdowns and protesters, which caused a lot of journalists to ask him, well, from who did you hear this? And then Trump gave his usual vague, trying to nail gel to a wall answers. The U.S. president claims, which were made with few details, because they always are, come as he's told protesting Iranians in recent days that, quote, help is on the way, and that his administration would, quote, act accordingly to respond to the Iranian government. But Trump has not offered any details about how the U.S. might respond, and it wasn't clear if his comments Wednesday indicated he would hold off on action. Quote, we've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping. It's stopped. So it's stopping. So is it stopping or has it stopped? Because you said both in the same sentence. Actually, you've changed your mind twice. You said that it's stopping, then you said it stopped, and then you said it's stopping. Trump said at the White House while signing executive orders and legislation, and there's no plan for executions or an execution or executions, so I've been told that on good authority. Trump did not specify where he had received that information, but only described it as, quote, very important sources on the other side. Many people are saying. Trump said that he would find out later if it was true, but didn't explain how. So this sounds like a person that doesn't really want to send help on the way. Maybe someone got some polling data from the United States indicating, from other Americans, indicating that when they said that they wanted America first and they didn't want the United States to go be doing all these wars elsewhere, that they really meant it. Midterms are coming after all. If those midterms are going to matter, which is not, unfortunately, a sure thing. But yes, Trump backing down on that. And then with regard to Greenland, well, there's been a couple of actions. There's been some mobilization, and that has caused Trump to also make a couple of changes in his rhetoric, which has been very interesting. According to Politico, is it? Nope, sir, this is not Politico, I should say. Let me try to get that article again. Sorry. Yes, I messed up. I clicked on the wrong link. That's my bad. But here, now it should work. Let's try that. Boom. According to Politico, EU, Denmark and allied countries said Wednesday they will increase their military presence in Greenland as part of an expanded exercises amid intensifying pressure from Washington over the Arctic island's sovereignty. Quote, security in the Arctic is of crucial importance to the kingdom and our Arctic allies and is therefore important that we, in close cooperation with allies, further strengthen our ability to operate in the region, said Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen. The Danish Defense Forces, together with several Arctic and European allies, will explore in the coming weeks how an increased presence and exercise activity in the Arctic can be implemented. In a statement, Denmark's defense ministry said additional Danish aircraft, naval assets, and troops will be deployed in and around Greenland, starting immediately as part of an expanded training and exercise activity. The effort will include, quote, receiving allied forces, operating fighter jets, and carrying out maritime security tasks, the ministry said. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said on X, or Twitter, that Swedish officers are arriving in Greenland as part of a multinational allied group to help prepare upcoming phases of Denmark's Operation Arctic Endurance exercise, following a request from Copenhagen. The European diplomat said that troops from the Netherlands, Canada, and Germany were also taking part. The diplomat and another official with first-hand knowledge said France was also involved. France, which is a nuclear power, by the way. Quote, as of this moment, the Canadian Armed Forces are not initiating any new operations in Greenland, said Maya Uferat, President Secretary in the Office of Canada's Minister of National Defense. French President Emmanuel Macron announced in the early hours of Thursday morning that, quote, at the request of Denmark, I have decided that France will participate in the joint exercises organized by Denmark and Greenland, Operation Arctic Endurance. The first French military elements are already on their way. Others will follow. Germany's defense ministry said it will deploy a reconnaissance team of 13 soldiers to Greenland as of Thursday for exercises running to Saturday. Quote, the aim is to explore the framework conditions possible military contributions to support Denmark in ensuring security in the region. Defense ministries in the other countries did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So far, the deployment remains intergovernmental and has not been formally approved by NATO, according to two people familiar with the matter. Quote, the goal is to show that Denmark and key allies can increase their presence in the Arctic region, said a third person briefed on the plans, demonstrating their, quote, ability to operate under the unique Arctic conditions and thereby strengthen the alliance's footprint in the Arctic, benefiting both European and transatlantic security. The announcement landed the same day U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers in Washington following days of rising transatlantic tensions over President Donald Trump's bid to take over the strategic island. Trump escalated the dispute earlier Wednesday in a Truth Social post, declaring, quote, that the United States needs Greenland for the purposes of national security, calling it vital for his planned Golden Dome missile defense system. He also insisted that seizing Greenland would not destroy NATO, despite warnings from Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen that such a move would end the Atlantic Alliance. Quote, militarily, without the vast power of the United States, NATO would not be an effective force or deterrent. Not even close, Trump posted. They know that, and so do I. NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Denmark and Greenland have repeatedly rejected any suggestion of a transfer of sovereignty, stressing that Greenland is a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark and that its future is for Greenlanders alone to decide. Greenland's government said it is working closely with Copenhagen to ensure local involvement and transparency with Denmark's Arctic Command tasked with keeping the population informed. Quote, if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark here now, we choose Denmark, Jens Frederik Nielsen, Greenland's prime minister, said at a press conference Tuesday. In response, Trump said, that's their problem. I disagree with him. I don't know who he is, don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him. Then Trump, even though they keep on talking about, potentially military invasion, all cards are on the table, that type of stuff, the main portion of it seemed to move towards Trump indicating that he would rather purchase it than invade it. And then, according to the Daily Journal here, an interesting change in wording. U.S. President Donald Trump held open the possibility Wednesday for a resolution on his designs over Greenland after Denmark's top diplomat said he failed to change the administration's mind on wanting to conquer the island. So basically, they had this meeting. Trump said, people says, we would like to conquer you, buy you, acquire you, whatever it is, absorb you. And Greenland said no. Denmark said no. And it seems that they've come out and said, we agreed to disagree with that. I'm not sure how you agree to disagree if one person wants to annex you and you say no, and the person that wants to annex you still wants to annex you. So if you're agreeing to disagree, something else must have happened. Well, let's see what it is. The foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland, an autonomous territory under Copenhagen's sovereignty, met at the White House with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In a meeting, the visitors had requested to clear up, quote, misunderstandings after Trump's bellicose language towards the fellow NATO member. Trump, speaking after the meeting, which he did not attend, for the first time sounded conciliatory on Greenland, acknowledging Denmark's interest, even if he again said he was not ruling out any options. Quote, I have a very good relationship with Denmark and we'll see how it all works out. I think something will work out. Yes, if you had a very good relationship with Denmark, you wouldn't be trying to seize Greenland. You would have knocked on the door of Denmark and saying, hey, you know what? We have this agreement that's existed since a long time because we used to have like 20 or 30 bases operating with 15,500 Americans on it, and we've reduced that to only using one base with 150 of us on there. Although it's your fault that Arctic security up there is not good. Not ours for having left all this time. But since we basically have an agreement with you where we can do pretty much what we want, we're just going to knock on your door and say, hey, we would like we're worried about this now and we would like to re-increase our presence. Are you okay with that? And how do we best do that? If you had a very good relationship with Denmark, that's what you would have done. So that's not true. He again said Denmark was powerless if Russia or China wanted to occupy Greenland, but added there's everything we can do. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen, speaking after leaving the White House, said a U.S. takeover of Greenland was, quote, absolutely not necessary. Quote, we didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland, Løkke told reporters. We therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. He said the issue was, quote, very emotional for the people of Greenland and Denmark, a steadfast U.S. ally whose troops died alongside Americans in Afghanistan and controversially Iraq. Ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the rights of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable, Løkke said. He nonetheless said the tone was, quote, constructive, and said the sides would form a committee that would meet within weeks to see if there was a possible headway. Referring to the British Prime Minister who trumpeted his diplomacy with Hitler, Løkke said, quote, I am not a Chamberlain to say peace for our time, but we must seize the opportunities that present themselves. While the talks were underway, the White House posted on Twitter, which way Greenland, man? The post including a drawing of two dog sleds, one heading towards the White House and a huge U.S. flag, and the other towards Chinese and Russian flags over a lightning-bathed Kremlin and Great Wall of China. But the United States isn't the only one that's been using memes. I've seen memes of Trump apparently in Greenland running away from a polar bear that was chasing him, and you know that that's AI because Trump doesn't run. Except his mouth. Oh my God. Yeah. President Bone Spurs running away from a polar bear. Yeah, sure. The post included a drawing of two dog sleds, one heading towards the White House and one a huge U.S. flag, and the other towards Chinese and Russian flags over a lightning-bathed Kremlin and Great Wall of China. Neither country has claimed Greenland, and Locke says no Chinese ship has been spotted there in a decade, and that there were no major Chinese investments. Denmark promised ahead of the meeting to ramp up its military presence further in the vast, sparsely populated, and strategically located island. Trump has derided recent Danish efforts to increase security for Greenland as amounting to two dog sleds. But, and as we mentioned on the show, Denmark says it has invested almost $14 billion in Arctic security. Denmark also announced immediate military exercises that will include aircraft vessels and soldiers, with Sweden also participating. In another show of solidarity with Denmark following Trump's threats, Germany and France both said Wednesday they will send troops to Greenland. Germany's defense ministry said it would send a 13-person team. On the quiet streets of the capital Nuuk, red and white Greenlandic flags flew in shop windows, on apartment balconies, and on cars and buses in a show of national unity during the talks. Ivana Egede Larsen, 43, said she felt relief that the meeting appeared to be cordial. Quote, "I'm more calm now and I feel more safe. I had very much felt unsafe lately," she said. In Copenhagen, Thomas Fallesen, 56, voiced similar sentiments. "They are now at least talking together instead of talking through the press. I think it's a very positive thing," he said. Vance, who slammed Denmark as a, quote, "bad ally" during an uninvited visit to Greenland last year, is known for a hard edge, which was on display when he publicly berated Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office last February. Wednesday's meeting, however, was closed to the press, meaning there was no on-camera confrontation. Trump has appeared emboldened on Greenland, which he views as in the U.S.'s backyard since ordering a deadly January 3rd attack in Venezuela that removed President Nicolas Maduro. But now Trump is saying things like, I think that we will work it out. We will definitely be able to work it out somehow. That beep, 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 beep sound is the truck backing up. Trump might be realizing that given his efforts in Venezuela did not necessarily yield everything that he wants. Looks like some of the oil companies are not particularly keen to getting in there. One of them specifically said it out loud, and I'm going to guess to his face. And apparently now there's some retaliation starting against that particular executive. Go figure. But yeah, he's realizing that that's not going to go as well or as fast as he had planned. And in Greenland, other NATO members are coming together to deliver some type of pushback. So letting him know it's not going to be an easy fight, which could be enough to make this bully decide that, if you're going to be like that, then I don't really want it anymore, and try to find an easier fight. Maybe. But it's nice to see the pushback. And it's interesting to see the change in rhetoric from the United States, seeming backing down on wanting to bomb Iran or finding a way to do that, and seemingly backing down, at least for now, on its plans to at least try to acquire Greenland by using military force, and perhaps even by purchasing it. Everything Trump wants to do in Greenland, he can do based on the arrangements and agreements that exist now. None of this is necessary. So he's just burning a lot of political capital for no particular reason. Unless the reason is to go down in history as the first American president in a long time to have actually expanded U.S. territory. And he's not really thinking longer than that. It's just a legacy thing. All right, kids and cubs. Whew. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. We really do, especially when you include a little bit that indicates why it is our content has resonated with you. Remember, kids and cubs, as well, that we are working on getting our audio podcasts back online. And when that happens, you can go to our pod page. That's podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagBeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you can click on subscribe there, when we do have our podcasts up and running again, when they come fresh off the bandwidth, they will go to your favorite podcast feed. They'll be waiting for you. You don't even have to go looking for them. We make it easy because we like to help. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, there are a few ways that you can do that. One of the ways is by taking a trip down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page where you can click this QR code and it will bring you right there. Kits, Elaine, and Cassie will be there welcoming you, urging you to press our buttons, click on them, like, share, and subscribe. And remember, if you're watching live, if you smash with our buttons now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. And who doesn't love a good smash? Go on, get freaky. We won't judge. So please click like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm and it makes our numbers go up. And when that does, well, we get ourselves a little bit of happy. So thank you for that. And Kits and Cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you 5 days a week. Sometimes a little more when we have some specials and stuff like that. And we would definitely love to receive an enthusiastic expression of encouragement on your part for us to do more. And if you have the means and the inclination, please scan this QR code and it will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can drop a loony or toonie into our tip jar, or that we affectionately call the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, because as we all know, a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. So if you would like to do your little bit to keep your favorite beaver moist, drop a few coins in our tip jar. And we thank you so much for that. Now, if you happen to be doing the Buy Canadian thing, very important, and you do not want a share of your donation to go to the US tech bros who then take a portion of that and donate it to Donald Trump so that he can say and do nasty things to us, then you might want to make your donation using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That makes it a bank-to-bank direct transfer, which means the portion that would go to the tech bros for handling the transaction actually comes to us. So you get much more beaver bang for your beaver buck, and you can get more show as well. So if you would donate that way, that is actually the best way for us, and we would definitely be grateful if you took the time to do it that way. Of course, if you're on our YouTube channel, we have memberships, and we do have the super chat donations that you can help support us that way too. And we thank you so much for everything that you do for us. Now, if you are not able to contribute financially, please remember that the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that do matter most to us. And that same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is the one you can use to write to us to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, offer gift suggestions, articles that you think that we should see. Also, remember, hashtag Kits Who Cook. If you're making something yummy, please show it to us. It gives us ideas for what we want to make, because we do love to cook here at the Beaver Lodge, and we love to see the yummy treats you are making. Of course, if you are artistic in any way, if you crochet, if you paint, if you bake and decorate cakes, show us your creations. We love to see that. And if you happen to have some good news happen to you, please share it with us, because we love to share in your joy. And, we do a lot of doom scrolling when we are preparing the show. So hearing about the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, and the occasions that you have going on in your life that are milestones, are things that we love to hear about, because we like to cheer you on. And it makes our day brighter. When good things happen to good people, and you are good people, it makes our day brighter too. So please share your good news with us. It means the world to us. All right. There you go. Let's see. Where do we go from now? Because democracy is something that you do. If you live on Prince Edward Island, remember, Kits and Cubs, that it is February 7th that the vote will take place there for the new leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Prince Edward Island. So please make sure that you are registered to vote if you can. You have 2 more days to register to vote, because the last day to join the party is tomorrow, the 16th. The first leadership forum took place at the Consolidated Credit Union Place in Summerside last night. Hopefully I'll be able to find it online and look at it and bring you some highlights from it on a future show. The second leadership forum will take place at the Cavendish Farms Wellness Center in Montague on the 22nd. And then on February 2nd, there will be the third and final leadership forum taking place at the Confederation Center of the Arts in Charlottetown, with February 7th being the leadership convention taking place at the Eastlake Center in Charlottetown. And it's the final day to vote online or in person for the new leader of the party. And as we mentioned, there are two candidates that we know of. Mark Ledwell, a lawyer and former managing partner at Gowling WLG, who has advised on issues related to finance, infrastructure, energy, and agri-food. And of course, the former interim leader, Rob Lance, who is the MLA for Charlottetown Brighton since 2023, was the Minister of Housing, Land and Communities from 2023 to 2024, and Minister of Education and Early Years from 2024 to 2025. And those are your two candidates there. Also, we have our two petitions that we are monitoring here. The first petition, House of Commons petition E6821, and we will put the link in the chat so that you can share it and sign it if you have not already, which encourages Parliament to establish some legislation that would make it such that our foreign ownership laws for media would be changed so that Canadian media would be run by Canadians, owned by Canadians, in the best interest of Canadians, because we seem to have a very active Quisling press developing in Canada, and perhaps given that this is now an issue of national sovereignty and security, we might want to take some action to fix that, and our MPs might need a little nudge. So if you can sign that we would be very grateful. We are now at 11,199 signatures on that one. And then the second one is House of Commons petition E7027, which I will also put the link in the chat for you. And this is a House of Commons petition that would ask our MPs to make use of Section 90 of the Constitution Act of 1867, the disallowance clause, in order to confront the governments or the legislation that has been enacted in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So this the disallowance clause would either annul or repeal this legislation that restricts the rights of transgender and gender diverse people and has been shielded from charter scrutiny through the use of the notwithstanding clause, and to affirm the federal government's responsibility to uphold charter rights across Canada, rights that we have signed ourselves onto through international treaty. And that petition is at 28,513 signatures and doing very well. And hopefully we can grow. Sorry, correct. I needed an update. 28,680 signatures. So there you go, kits and cubs. And for petition 6821, also an update. I was wrong. It's now at 11,307 signatures. I just didn't do the update. So the petitions are growing, and I thank you for talking about them, sharing them, signing them, telling your friends about them. Every little bit matters. All right, kits and cubs. Words of wisdom. If you're playing curling, bring your glasses. Those are my words of wisdom. Don't have a 6 scored against you, and don't have your picture. Don't have a picture of the mess you made photographed. And if it does happen to you, don't, like me, do it twice in 1 year. It's not a good feeling. It's a good feeling for the other team, of course, but it's not a good when everybody's at the other end and taking the picture, and you're at your end all on your own, and cursing yourself out and looking at the floor and feeling a little humiliated. It's not fun. It's part of the game, but it's not fun. So bring your glasses. Bring your glasses. Don't be like me. All right, kids and cubs. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself, and we will come back with some Canadians who make us proud, because we actually have some good news. Oh, I'm so excited. But before we do that, at the count of 3, it's time for audience participation. And if you're new here, kids and cubs, as we leave the show, we ask you, and if you don't know it yet, don't worry, you'll understand once it plays, the music plays. But we ask you at the count of 3 to say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes, I am hearing some new voices. Your wish is my command. Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master. Hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, lovelies, a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. World Juniors for women are on at the moment, and today is the first round of the playoffs. So, kids and cubs, if you have the opportunity and the inclination, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight, Team Canada will be playing Team Finland for an opportunity to advance to the semifinal. Currently, Sweden and Slovakia are playing after two periods, or in the second period. It is 4-1 for Sweden. That's not necessarily unexpected here. Also in tennis, I have some good news to report, kids and cubs. Two Canadians will be playing in the main draw of a Grand Slam for the first time ever. So I believe we have 5 Canadians who are already entered in the main draw, men and women, and a lot of them are ranked in the top 32 in the world, if not all of them, I think so. But we will have a couple of others joining them. So we will have Victoria Mboko, who will be playing. Of course, we will have Leila Fernandez, who will be playing, of Denis Shapovalov, Felix Auger-Aliassime, and Gabriel Diallo. All of them, I believe, will be ranked will be seated at the tournament. But yesterday was the third round of qualifications for the Australian Open, and we had 2 players still in contention. One of them was Liam Drexel, who is playing Mackenzie McDonald from the United States, someone who is higher ranked than Liam Drexel. And Drexel lost the first set 6-3, won the second set 7-6, 7-2 in the tiebreaker, and then ran away with it in the third, convincingly winning it 6-2. And he enters a Grand Slam draw for the first time, which is very exciting. This is a player that we have been watching for a little bit now, and I truly bet this year. Last year he came so close. He got to about 1/2 in the world, and I thought he was going to make his breakthrough into the 100 last year. This year will definitely be the year that he does it, because if he's managing to qualify into Grand Slams, he certainly will be having a good year this year if his health remains good. So he entered the qualifying tournament at about 145th in the world, and I'm going to guess that by qualifying, he might be jumping close to the 130s or something. All he needs is a couple of wins, and that will do his ranking a lot of good. And the other person is Marina Stakusic, who came to our attention nationally when Team Canada won the Billie Jean King Cup. She was a giant killer in that tournament. She also had a year last year where she sort of plateaued at a certain level. Her highest ranking was 114th in the world, so I thought last year would happen. But it didn't happen. But she did qualify, and through qualifying has risen back to 126th in the world. Her too, if she gets a good draw and can get a win or two under her belt, that could be enough to propel her into the top 100 after this tournament. Maybe not. I'm looking at the numbers here, but she could definitely make some good headway on the way to get there. So yes, 7 Canadian players that I know of, unless somebody has to withdraw for some reason, in the main draws of the men's and women's singles events at the Australian Open. And I believe the first matches will probably start sometime Sunday. I'm not sure with the time difference exactly how that runs out here for Canada. But I believe that the tournament does start on Sunday down under. And of course, the first Grand Slam of the year, it's really a big deal. Actually starts on Saturday. So there we go. Felix Auger-Aliassime will have his first match against number 46 player in the world, Nuno Borges, on Saturday. So that will be interesting. Hopefully Felix is doing better, because he had to pull out of the United Cup a couple of weeks ago because the heat and the humidity were a bit too much. Liam Drexel's first round match will be against, I can't remember his first name. Zumur? Zumur? Damir Zumur from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that will be interesting. That's a good matchup for him, actually, because Zumur is not necessarily a seeded player, but still quite well ensconced in the top 100. So that will be a good match for Drexel. Potentially winnable, but a very good match for him. Denis Shapovalov's first match will be against a player from China, ranked 120th in the world. So hopefully that will be an opportunity for Dennis to get to the second round, called Yunchokete Bu. That's a new name for me. It's a player I'm not familiar with, so I can't give any advanced scouting with regard to that. On the women's side, Kits and Cubs, taking a look at the draw and seeing what we have here. Leila Fernandez, I believe, will be facing a player from Poland or Indonesia. Indonesia, Janice Chen, who is ranked 56th in the world. So that will be a tough match. That will be a good contest for Leila Fernandez. She's coming into the tournament ranked number 22 in the world. Marina Stakusic has gotten a very good first round draw. She will be playing Priscilla Hahn, ranked 121st in the world, and Marina Stakusic is ranked 127th now. So this will be a good opportunity for Stakusic to get a win. They have played head-to-head once before, but that's when they were both juniors, probably a good 3 years ago, with Hahn winning at that point. Also looking at the draw here. I'm sorry, just going to go back because I made a little mistake, and there we go. Trying to correct that. Looking at the other competitors from Canada who might be in the draw. So yes, all three male players will be playing on the first day. The first round usually takes a little because there are so many players at a Grand Slam. And then the third one is Victoria Mboko here, who has a very good, a very, very, very good draw here in the first round, playing another player that I'm not familiar with from Australia named Emerson Jones, who's ranked 155th in the world. And of course, Victoria Mboko is ranked 17th in the world. And therefore, that should be a winnable match for Victoria Mboko. Also, speaking about Victoria Mboko, had a very, very big win yesterday. She's playing at the Adelaide tournament and was facing the number 2 player of the tournament and former Grand Slam champion Madison Keys of the United States. Mboko is ranked 17th in the world, as we mentioned, but Madison Keys is ranked number 9, and Victoria Mboko handled her 6-4, 4-6, 6-2. I think this might be her first win against a world top 10. So she's just progressing through she might actually end up going into the Australian Open with a title for this year already under her belt if she continues to play this well early on. Her next match on the schedule is a rather winnable match to somebody else who's overperforming in this tournament. So having a breakthrough in this tournament as well. So we might see Victoria Mboko in the final of this tournament in Adelaide as a warm-up to the Australian Open, which would be a very good event. All right. And that's all I have for you, Kits and Cubs. Very excited about the tennis season this year, as you can tell. That's all I got for you. So, Kits and Cubs, amour et bisous. And we will see you tomorrow. And with that, I am gone.